Hey there. So this is the day of the Uranus Cazimi, and in 5 days' time, it's going to be the time of the Jupiter Cazimi. My name's Louisa Munson, and this is the combined forecast for the Cazimis, and also touching a little bit into the Venus Cazimi at the beginning of June. So I'm looking at all of the forecasts from the perspective of your ascendant, or rising sign, as that's also known as, using a Western tropical system, and also using a whole sign system. Now, if you know what your chart looks like and you know where each of these Cazimis is falling in your chart, then you could listen to the correct ascendant that gives you that result. But if you're not that proficient, then just listen to the sign of your rising or your ascendant. I do get people ask, can I listen to my sun sign? Absolutely. If you want to, feel free to. These are for you. And hopefully the messages within these forecasts will help you feel much more positive, more aligned to who you are, because that's really part of the themes that are coming up. If you want to know more about the themes, then please do watch this video up here, because this video, in fact, I should have done this hand, because this video tells you all about the patterns of each of these Cazimis, and what they're representing at a much bigger scale. Anyway, let's have a look now at the first sign, and that is Aries. Let's bring it up now. Okay, so Aries ascendant. So what am I talking about in this? So first of all, this is absolutely a forecast about your unique journey to wholeness, to a greater level of discovery, to uncovering what's been hidden from you, what you've been hiding, and also helping to lead you back to a sense of naturalness and beauty. You know, in many respects, I think the combination of these three Cazimis is really helping to rewild you and to sow seeds for your true self to confidently re-emerge. So that's really where I'm going with this. Now, we've got the three Cazimis. The first one is Uranus on the 13th of May, which is today. We've got the Jupiter one on the 18th. And these, I think, are working in like a step-by-step approach. So the first one is really helping you to come back to your unique self. Then the Jupiter Cazimi on the 18th is about developing a really cast iron, deep belief in your abilities. And it's really, I think, an aspect of hopefulness and growth. And you can see where these two are in your birth chart. So, you know, the Uranus Cazimi is at 23 degrees in the sign of Taurus, and Jupiter is at 28 degrees in the sign of Taurus, which for an Aries ascendant in a whole sign Western tropical system is showing up in your second house. Now, we have some support factors that I'm going to be talking about, where you're going to find the support and how that's going to help you. And these are represented by Saturn in the 12th and Neptune in the 12th as well. And then Venus and the Venus Cazimi is really showing up as, I think, where the results of what you're working on right now are leading you. So there's quite a lot to unpack here. The first thing I really want to talk about the Uranus Cazimi that's happening today on the 13th, I'm recording this is about helping you independently re-emerge. This is helping you almost like shock you alive. I really do think that these are like the defibrillator paddles that, you know, you see on these medical ER drama type things, you know, where, you know, someone's like bringing you back to life. They're putting the paddles on you, and all of a sudden there's a shock to your system that maybe feels a little bit like a jolt, maybe feels a little bit painful, but might also just feel very, very exciting. So, you know, the kind of energy that's around today that is absolutely worth tapping into, I would say, is the energy of awakening, the energy of discovery. It's like, wow. The feeling and energy of having a massive breakthrough, and to find freedom, to release yourself from anything that feels unlike freedom. You know, so anywhere where you're feeling trapped, penned in, caught out, caught up, where you feel like you're under a whole web and heaviness of expectations. These are all the kind of capture protocols that may have been active in your life. And this Uranus Cazimi is here to help you free yourself, to like remove those, get those off your shoulder, and feel absolutely emotionally free. Now, where is this actually happening? So the second house of your chart is the one that's really highlighted right now, where all the deep shifts are happening. Now, the second house is ordinarily known as that place of where you're earning your money. So all of your finances, all of your resources that are coming in through your own efforts. So it's often a place where we spend a lot of time really thinking about the money side of things. But I also think it's a place of where we value things that we have access to. And you are your own greatest resource. It's you. It's not the money you're earning. It's you, because within you is all the promise of everything that you've ever needed and everything you will need. And so I really see this as, how are you valuing yourself? So anywhere where you've not been valuing yourself forever, this today is an opportunity to have a massive breakthrough, to release all those anxieties. Now, one of the things that often comes up, I think, when we talk about valuing yourself, and that is that we think that if we value ourselves, somehow people maybe will fall away from us because they might not like how you're elevating yourself. You know, there's all these little, I think, really passive aggressive programmings that have been, I think, laid out like little landmines in the in all the fields, in all the grounds around the world right now, in particular the Western world, and no doubt in the Eastern as well, you know, where expectations are really, really heavily put on people. So I think anywhere where there are expectations of how you were meant to be, according to other people's value systems, this is a day where you can totally let go of that. And have some kind of really useful breakthrough, so that you can just kind of blast through it and realize the only person that you might choose to have expectations about is you. And can you imagine the freedom that you might get if you were to totally let all that worry, strife, anxiety just disappear? Because actually, anyone that's got expectations on you, especially heavy expectations, the chances are, even if you meet them, you're never going to fully reach somebody else's expectations, because like it's almost like the energy of power. When somebody has some kind of powerful hold over you that requires you to do this, this, and this, you're already in a deficit to that person. So what this today is about, as far as I can see, is breaking free of any kind of value-based system where you are placed, ranked lower than other people. And that, you know, that's within your life, your home life, your friendships, your work, anywhere where you feel like you're looking up to people and thinking there's things that you've got to do to make you good enough, to make you high enough, to make you free enough, blah, 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 blah. And all of this is kind of white noise, really. You know, sorry to reduce maybe some of these quite painful belief systems that you might have had about yourself. Sorry to reduce it down to white noise. I'm just trying to convey the idea that today is the day we can have a massive breakthrough. And it could be very, very shocking, you know, the level of release that might come with this. But this is, you know, this is the start of a new independent cycle. The Sun and Uranus come together. We become more independent. We become more free. We value the truth in a much bigger way. And these changes can create shock. What I would also say, it's worth bearing in mind that anything that is for you will come back to you. So, for instance, if you are raising yourself up, and why shouldn't you, by the way, and it's not to say you're putting yourself above people, you're releasing the hold that people might have on you, and also giving them the freedom to be themselves. It works both ways. So, you know, in the energy and spirit of absolutely serving yourself and valuing yourself and doing everything in your power to feel better about yourself, anyone that drops away is probably not for you. Any situation that drops away is probably not for you, because it's not bringing you the value. It's not seeing you with the value that you truly, utterly deserve. So yeah, massive, massive possibilities for today. This is about you feeling free of it and feeling a lot more independent. And then from that, on the 18th, there's a sense of deep belief in your abilities. I mean, can you imagine what magical things may just happen in your life if you were totally to let go of any expectations on you, so that you were absolutely free to make money, which is very much a second house thing, and value yourself completely and truly? Like, what new things might you consider doing? You know, would you dare yourself to be a bit stronger? Would you challenge yourself in a new kind of way? You know, this is absolute fundamental shifts occurring. You know, this is a really, really deep possibility. So what I really see is the more you practice the first thing, the more you are coming into a belief of confidence about yourself, and the fact that even if things aren't working out right now in the way that you're hoping, it's not because you failed, it's just because it hasn't ended yet. Like, you haven't got to the end of this thing that you've actually made the changes of. So, you know, often when we make changes, things look very disruptive. And so we don't always see a very smooth outcome right at the end. Sometimes we might need to just wait the right amount of time for our vision to grow, our beliefs to grow, etc., etc. And then, then we get the great result. So if you're looking at a short-term result, like neither Uranus nor Jupiter are short-term planets. I mean, they can definitely provide quick gains. Yeah, because they are both very changing, but they're also both very futuristic. They sense trends. They are always thinking a few steps ahead. So, if you're looking immediately to your like right now, you might not see the big changes unless they're big, shocking changes. You're not going to really see them. So I would also advise that you put in some kind of outcomes for yourself. So, maybe if you're judging what you need to do on a scale of when I get to this result, I'm going to feel great, and that will be a thumbs up. Actually, if you were to break it down even further into lots of little tasks that you might be able to achieve along the way through this change, and you'll be so much more confident. You'll just be building. So that's absolutely where I would recommend that you do that. Now, the great thing about this is you've got the Midas touch coming in, and it's absolutely being activated in your third house. Now, not only do we have the Venus Cazimi on the 4th of June, we've also got the new moon in Gemini activating this area in June. We've also got Jupiter going into this part of your chart from the 25th of May. So that's in 2 weeks' time ish. Just less than 2 weeks' time. So like the new energies that you're creating right now are going to be landing within your communities, your global communities, your online communities, anywhere where you're socializing with people and exchanging things in small amounts, quick amounts, fast. So, it's almost like everything that you're being in terms of knowing who you are, what you're about, without anyone else's expectations on you, where you're generating a beautiful sense of confidence, like natural confidence. Because all of this is about getting back to your original script. All of this is being played out here in a very social place, a place with natural supports in. Final thing I want to really share, what you're doing right now is absolutely uncovering anything that's not quite working for you in your unconscious set of beliefs and mindset. This is absolutely working in a very unconscious way. So anywhere where, so you may well find that in accessing the energy coming in today, the Uranus Cazimi and then later the Jupiter Cazimi, that it's unlocking parts of your brain, it's unlocking parts of your consciousness that you haven't been aware of for a long time. So it could be quite shocking. One thing, you've got Saturn here supporting and stabilizing. Saturn is not a flashy planet. Saturn is take it slow. Saturn is the inner grandparent. Now it could be the dad as well, but I would go with grandparents, because usually grandparents are a bit kinder to us than our own parents. Not because our parents are monsters necessarily, but grandparents have a much greater length of time to view things from. And so, they've seen lots of ups and downs, and most likely they now see things as general trends. And so they're much more likely to say, give it time, it will pass. So, anytime you're discovering something about yourself that's a bit shocking, channel your inner grandparent. Imagine you go and sit down at their table and they say, come here, lass. They give you a cup of tea and a slice of cake, and then they just like listen to you. So you want to generate that inner grandparent for you, which is what Saturn could do. Or the best boss you've ever had, or the best teacher that you had at school that absolutely loved you, sort of unconditionally, and was there to just support you, just stop you from falling to one side or another, you know. So it's like the inner grown-up cheerleader. So it's like cheerleading, but not like rah, rah, rah. It's like very sort of mature. You've also got Neptune being activated, which is your intuitive knowing. And again, that could be quite shocking if you're not used to using that. So again, any dreams, any meditations and creativity that is coming forth right now could be so magnified, because these are absolutely tapping into Uranus and Jupiter. You might shock yourself with the level of detail, the level of creativity, the level of where the hell did that come from? So just go easy with yourself. You know, Neptune is there to change the lenses that you've had set in your sort of internal visions and your external visions, how you're seeing the world. Things are likely to shift. And of course, once you start seeing things from a place of independence and freedom from anxiety, then, you know, the way you see the world is going to really rapidly change. So there you go. There's some thoughts about how you might want to manage the Uranus Jupiter Cazimi, and like leading you softly and excitedly into June. If you do need any other support and you think I'll be a good person to run that past, then just see below in the descriptions. I've got details of how you can connect with me and also invite me to work with you. So anyway, lots of love to you. Have a great time and catch you in another video. Lots of love. Okay, Taurus ascendant, how are you doing right now? So these forecasts are absolutely here to help you on your journey. You know, the way I see, you know, these two Cazimis, very strong Cazimis, essentially it's the Sun and Uranus coming together. The Sun is absolutely igniting all the potentials of Uranus. 5 days later, the Sun is coming into Jupiter, like coming into that energy, and is like letting the Jupiter energy flood your life. Now, these are setting off new cycles. The first one is very much about freedom and independence. And the second one is about faith and hopefulness. And if you do want to know more about the internal programmings of each Cazimi, God, I've got so hot because I'm so passionate about this subject. I suddenly heated right up. But anyway, if you wanted to dig deeper into the meanings of both of these particular Cazimis, and also the Venus one that's coming in on the 4th, then really do go into the first part, which was a video I released yesterday. Anyway, I will do my best to capture as much of that in this forecast as possible. So what I'm really seeing with this is, you know, this is about shifts in your personality, less about what you're actually going to do, but more about how you're shifting as a person. So the first thing that's coming in is the Uranus energy, which is about independence, freedom, truth, change. It can be chaotic because, you know, Uranus is like being on the wheel of fortune. It can go up and it can go down, and it can change its speed quite dramatically. Uranus has always got its eye on the future, so it's always like seeing things ahead of time that you might actually be quite comfortable with. It might be all of a sudden giving you a massive brainwave so far into the future that you're kind of shocked by it. You know, Uranus is surprising. You know, it's not like a stable planet. It's one that creates change. That's the only thing that's really stable about it, is the energy of consciousness and shifting. And of course, consciousness, you know, is alive. This is about being alive, being more alive in yourself. So how can you become more alive to yourself right now is my big question to you. And this is what the energy is shifting, you know. This is how it's shifting for you in this forecast, you know, because these Cazimis are happening in your first house using the whole sign system. It's happening in your first house, which is about your personality, your identity, how you see yourself, what you're about, what you're known for, what's your personal brand. And so anywhere where you're anxious, about separation. Like separation is something that I think does come up with Uranus kind of energy, because Uranus is so much about change. And of course, when we change our vibration and our frequency, it sometimes puts us in a different alignment to everybody else in our life. I mean, wouldn't it be easy if we all kind of shifted at the same time in the same way? Maybe, but would we be truly shifting? Like, I think a true shift separates us, you know, from where we were. And that is often the reason why lots of people choose not to shift, you know, like their unconscious mind. And you can say like the higher mind is definitely a Uranus thing. And if in your higher mind, you've been getting these nudges like from the universe, nudges from life, nudges from friends, nudges all over the place, that it's time for a shift. And you'll feel it, that stirring, that restlessness, that thing that is, it feels so magnificent and it feels so flipping scary. It feels like there is something I need to change right now. And so as you become consciously aware of that and you start to listen to that feeling of change, most likely what it brings up is a bit of anxiety, because you're going to be separating from the situations that are stopping you from living that change, being that change, breathing that change, and adjusting to your new vibrational set point. So this can be very, very disruptive. But this isn't, this is just the start of a new cycle. It's not necessarily saying, you know, unless like Uranus is right over one of your planets right now, which could be very disruptive. You know, it's not saying we're going to change your whole life, but it's putting you more into the alignment of greater independence, greater freedom, more of your truth and authenticity and integrity. It's huge. And it's as big as you want it to be. So this energy coming in today on the 13th of May is absolutely there to support you to feel that restlessness. So it might not be comfortable, to notice where the anxiety might sit, notice where you might be feeling resistance. And it's there to give you everything that you need to know right now on how you're holding yourself back so that you can free yourself. So like I say, it might not be a comfortable situation. And, you know, the Uranus, like when it comes to you, it's like a flash of inspiration. It could be like a download that people talk about. You know, they hear the ringing in the ears and they get a sense of like urgency and a sense of knowing, you know, so that's huge. Now, also, you might be getting information coming into you by our support systems. So right now, your support system, or one of your support systems, is Saturn. Now, Saturn is grown up in the room. So it could be a good friend who's responsible. It could be a parent. It could be a grandparent. I like the grandparently energy that comes in from the Saturn, because whoever is representing Saturn, or whatever situation is representing Saturn in your life right now, is not elderly, but has a sense of perspective that comes from having experience, having hard-won experience. You know, so it's not somebody who is like saying, oh, I know what you need to do. And they've not lived it. They've not been it. They've not breathed it. They've not understood it completely as you might if you've actually gone through it. So, you know, there are Saturnian people and situations around you that can prove experience. And you may well find that they are coming more into your life right now. And so again, you know, right now it's a good thing to do is to kind of ask yourself, why are there some helpful people around? Why are there some people that can support me with the breadth of their experience? So, you know, whatever's coming to you at the moment, especially today on the 13th, and then later on the 18th, is helping to rewire you and shift you along. You know, I don't think there are any accidents. I do think life is presenting us all, and you are also being the component in other people's life. You are also being the support system to somebody else's Uranus right now. So we're all doing it for each other somehow. Now, Neptune is also your intuitive knowing. Now, your intuitive knowing right now is likely to flare up again through these 11th house situations. So they're your contacts, your networks. They could be where you're involved in some kind of bigger dream, bigger idea for the world, where you might be in some kind of group. It's very group oriented. Now, this is where it gets a bit interesting, because, you know, the 11th house does have a bit of a hive mind to it and a group think. Now, you know, with Uranus and Jupiter in your first house, you're less group thinky right now, because actually what's really coming into your awareness is the fact that you have everything that you need to be able to work everything out independently to your own truth. You understand what feels like a moral truth to you, or an ethical truth, or what is your truth. It's like you've got to the core, and the group hive mind might not be able to supply you with that. Why would it? Right now you're learning to be individual. You're not learning to be the group. You're learning to stand away from the group and to be yourself in your own unique way. And yet the intuitive knowing might come up for you in spite of the group. So it might be through your interactions with people that maybe you were aligned with, and maybe you still are aligned, and yet you have to do it in your own way. It's almost like the more you remember those times, the more you're in those times, you are able to spot things that maybe don't quite feel right now. So it's a different kind of intuition. It's almost like, I recognize that this might not be taking me down the route for me. Or you might like all of a sudden get this kind of sense of like a nudge or an intuition, just a feeling, even because Neptune is very sort of feeling based as well. So it's like something washing over you. Be aware of those things. They're not there to be ignored. They're there to really show you that there might be something that is taking you away from this independence that you're hoping for. So these guys, these energies are here to support you to find yourself. Now, this is about discovering and uncovering the naturalness of you. It's like rewilding you. This is freeing you up as a sovereign being. The sign of Taurus can be quite compliant. Okay, you can be quite stubborn too, but the sign of Taurus is actually really meant to be quite natural and feeling really natural, feeling really grounded, and yet it can be very rooted. However, right now, what's really occurring in the Taurian mindset is that, yes, you can be grounded and quite rooted, and yet still be able to flow. It's not about being brittle. So there is something coming into you that's making you a lot more naturally flexible, and it's sowing seeds for you to grow in other places. Certain that you're not located to one area of life. It's sowing something. Now, 5 days later, the energy is shifting somewhat, and the Jupiterian energy is coming out, and that is about believing in yourself. And of course, if you've freed yourself a little bit from the constructs of maybe the groupthink that you've been in, or you get a much greater sense that, yes, this was a great, what happened in your recent networks and groups and things like that. It gave you a good basis for life, and now you're updating it and culturing it to your needs right now. So it's like, as you're doing that, and getting used to it, and standing in the separation anxiety that might occur from stepping away from where you've been part of something, in that sense of true independence, you're likely to have a breakthrough in terms of knowing that actually you know best for you. And that's, I think, where Jupiter's coming in. It's the belief in yourself, but it's not just the belief that you're great. It's the belief that you are in charge of you, that you're driving your car, the vehicle of your life. You are the driver now. It's like not about other people's values. You are cutting away from those values, and it's creating a lovely shift in you. Now, where is this likely to come out? It's gonna, like, from the shifts and the cutting away of other people's expectations and perceptions, it's moving you to, I think, receive funds, receive resources, receive praise and criticism as well. So, like, it's moving you into a place of receivership, so I think that's why it's so important to heed the energies that are sort of coming up in your chart in this way right now. They are here to show you where you're independent, where you are real, where you are yourself. And the more you can do that, the more beautiful it will be to receive things. I would say, like Jupiter where are we? In 12 days' time, Jupiter's actually heading into Gemini. Very soon, the Sun's going into Gemini and Venus. On the 4th, we've got the Venus Cazimi. Then we've got the new moon, which has got Venus and Jupiter with it. So, like, there's a lot of beneficial energy, like Venus and Jupiter are the benefics. They are heading into your second house. They are there to show you that whatever you've been doing with your money and resources, there's now loads more coming in. That's not to say it's all good money that you want to have necessarily, but it's coming in. The important thing is the flow is there, and the next step is to go into receivership. So trusting yourself is really important, because only people that can't trust themselves to make the right decision in the moment fear receiving things they don't want. You know, when you are confident that you know who you are, you're opening the doors to receiving everything. And that's, I think, one of the hallmarks of somebody who's got their life right. Because, you know, if you're saying, okay, hold up, back up the truck, I'm not ready to receive this, I only want to receive good stuff, only good stuff, only good stuff. It looks like you're only receiving great stuff, and you're putting your hand up and saying, I don't want any of that crap. Not today, thank you, mister. But actually, when you're controlling the flow like that, you may be missing out on some great opportunities, because some things might come across negatively because of the person that's described them to you, or they might not be for right now, but they might be for next week, you know. So anywhere where you're controlling the flow of what you're receiving, you're actually stopping the flow. You're slowing the flow. So it becomes, so there's a kind of a backlog. So, you know, if you're trying to handle a load of stuff that you don't want, there might be some good right behind it. And in that handling, you know, wouldn't it be so much better if you just had this open door policy, so things could come in, and then in the moment that you're receiving them and actually going into the receivership energy, that you say, that's for me, actually not for right now, I'm just going to park you here for the minute. Come on then, all you good stuff. So, you know, this is why this is so important. You know, really go into yourself, release anything that makes you feel separate and anxious about being separate, so that you can really faithfully know who you are and grow in confidence. And then you'll be in a really good flow of receivership. So anyway, I hope that's helpful for you, Taurus Ascendant. It's going to be some very exciting times coming up for you. I'm really sure of that. Now, if you want a bit more guidance that's absolutely bespoke to you, then just check out how to get in touch with me just below, underneath this video in the description. There's a few different ways that you can reach out to me and invite me to work with you. So if that's what you'd like, then just get in touch. But anyway, lots and lots of love to you. I really do hope that this is uplifting you in a really magical and amazing way. Lots of love to you. Okay, Gemini Ascendant, how are you doing? So these are the Western Tropical Whole Sign forecasts based on the Uranus Cazimi that's happening today, and then the Jupiter Cazimi that's happening on the 18th in 5 days' time. Both of them happening in the sign of Taurus. I've got them illustrated here. So the Uranus Cazimi is at 23 degrees in the sign of Taurus. The Jupiter one is at 28 degrees in the sign of Taurus. So it's really highlighting this part of your chart, which just happens to be the 12th house. We've also got a couple of support systems in place. Saturn is really helping both of these in your 10th house. I'll talk about that as we go through. And Neptune is also bringing quite a lot of intuitive knowing. And then, you know, where are we heading? You know, after these Cazimis, we'll be going into June. We've then got a Venus Cazimi on the 4th, just here. There's also the new moon in Gemini that's coming in. We'll have the sun, we'll have the moon, we'll have Gemini, Venus, and we'll also have Jupiter in your first house in the sign of Gemini in June. In fact, Jupiter is crossing over this line on the 25th in 12 days' time. So things are shifting. You know, in your experience, it's moving from a very sort of 12th house energy to the first house. And the first house, where it's all going to land and start to take effect, is this area here is about you, your body, your identity, how you really see yourself. Like, what is your personal brand? That is the thing that is ultimately shifting. But what's going on before then are some useful steps. And I think if you don't take these steps fully, or don't appreciate them, or think about them, or consider them, or even allow for the possibility that the Uranus Cazimi could be here to uplift and upgrade you in some way, and that the Jupiter Cazimi might be coming in to do something quite mystical and connected for you, then you're missing a trick. So let's talk through these step-by-steps and see what's helpful. Now, one thing I will say is, if you're interested in knowing more about the actual Cazimi programming in terms of the planetary patterns that are already taking place, then there's a first part to this video, which I released yesterday on the 12th of May. So that might be useful to listen into. But anyway, I'll try and include as much as I can in this short forecast. So really what I see going on right now is that we are all collectively on a journey back into wholeness, discovery, sort of uncovery. We are moving closer to the beauty of who we were born to be, who we really are. It's really a journey of naturalness, natural goodness. It's about us tapping into everything that is naturally good and right and proper for us. And that might not be the same recipe for everybody. You know, we're all unique beings. I think of this as almost like it's rewilding you. It is absolutely helping you figure out what is your natural wildness. You know, what is the thing that lights you up in a way that is just for you. And I also believe that this Cazimi, these Cazimis are sowing seeds for other cycles as well. So anything you're sowing right now here. So the Uranus Cazimi, there's going to be another Uranus Cazimi next year in 2025 in the sign of Taurus. But thereafter, all of the energies of the Uranus Cazimi, which is a cycle of independence, a cycle of freedom, a cycle of brilliance, and cycle of the higher mind, a cycle of natural channeling ability, it will be moving into your first house, and then it's going to be there for the next 7 odd years, which could really create some shifts for you. The Jupiter Cazimi here this year, next year, it's actually going to be coming up in your second house in the sign of Cancer, skipping Gemini actually, but from this Cazimi here to the next one, it's almost like whatever you're creating for yourself, whatever beliefs about yourself you're installing in your unconscious awareness right now, will be manifesting in a way of creating business success or money success or receiving success. It's there to help you value yourself in a whole new way. So the placements of these, I don't think could be any better. But I do put a caveat on this, because the 12th house is a place of our unconscious mind. It's a bit like where all of your, like if you think of your computer, and I realize as I've started this analogy, I'm going to get myself really caught up because I'm not a technical person. But, there's a place where all of your system rules are stored, like the way the computer, the operating system, that's it. Got there, kind of. So like your computer has its own operating system, and you have your own operating system. And so what's happening right now is it's like your operating system is getting rewritten, or the opportunity is there for it to rewrite itself based on what feels really right. It's almost like you got some kind of your own your own AI is updating itself, in your inner programming. So this is quite exciting. But it's and the reason why I say it's kind of updating itself is because the 12th house is a place of unconsciousness. It's in our blind sight. We can't quite see it. It's just over our shoulder. Like the first house is what we can consciously see and experience in our physical body. And, all of these houses are very, very physical. And as we get right round here, it starts to get more conceptual, less physical, less firm, less able to see. The 12th house is really actually the great mystery. It's almost where we have dematerialized into some kind of thought form. So the 12th house is very difficult to navigate. So, the energy of the Uranus Cazimi, you might be aware that there's some change going on, that there's something occurring. And Uranus in the 12th house, that's where it is natally for me. It's the place of the channel, where people are channeling information, like feeling things and then just talking like a mouthpiece. That's the Uranus in the 12th house energy. So it's almost like there is an unconscious stream connecting you to whatever this life is. And, you might think of it as God, you might think of it as universe, you might just think of it as your higher self, your soul. I don't know. It's not for me to say how it is, but I'm trying to describe, the sort of energetics. It feels like there is something very magnificent, and like the all that is, and that you can tap into that right now. And this day of the Uranus Cazimi, it's like there's lots of energy, sort of electrifying, electromagnetic kind of energy, codes, frequencies, whatever. And you might not be able to consciously see them, or be completely aware of them. You might not be able to pick it up like a physical pen, but it feels like there is something rewriting your script right now. Now, what can you do to feel like you have some authorship in this? And that's where I think is kind of really important. And I think there's lots you can do right now. So what you could do is sit down and daydream and write and create, like mind map. Anything that's taking your conscious awareness down a creative route is starting to activate those parts of you that you can't quite see, you can't quite perceive. So you want to activate your imagination as much as you can during this period. You might want to just ask questions to thin air, like go on a walk on your own. This is something I used to do, especially when I was just a mum and I had my first child, wearing him in a papoose, in a sling, and I would go walking, sometimes for a good couple of hours, and I would be talking to myself and like doing it in my head when people were passing me. But I would be asking questions, like, I wonder, so it's not really quite a question, but I wonder, because that opens up all of the possibilities. I wonder what might bring me my greatest joy right now. And I also wonder what changes might come in to allow that to happen. I wonder how I could move forwards knowing that any self-sabotage that I have can be looked at in a way that's comfortable, easy, and achievable. And so you can ask yourself all these kind of interesting, creative, I wonder questions, and then just let it go. Don't answer it. Because what you're doing is you're activating that really quiet, but always listening, always observing side of life, that system that you're connected with. It's creating that relationship with all that is. And I guess if you're religious, you'll say, oh, hang on, isn't that prayer? Isn't that where I'm also connecting to God and I'm praying? Or, if you're a meditator, you might say, oh, well, I go into this state all the time, So do whatever you can to activate the unconscious realm that you are connected to, because there are answers for you there. And that's a great thing when you ask these, I wonder what I might not need to do to get out of my own way. I wonder what life will be like if I let go of all resistance to my good. What's likely to happen is you'll get your answers. Now, they might not come, in an email, like you open up your email account and then boom, there's a message from the universe. But notice the patterns that are coming in, notice the conversations, notice what plays on the radio, just notice what comes up. If you've seen the film The Matrix, it's almost like as you change your thought, you are changing your adventure. It's like one of those choose your own adventure stories that were prominent in the 1980s, and I might have just lost some of my audience there, but every time you make a different decision or ask a different question, you're changing your outcome and you're writing your script with the unconscious. You're co-creating with unconscious energy that you are actually connected with. That's my belief system. You might have a different way of explaining it. So this is about activating the deeply creative and intuitive side of you. Now, where you might get support, Saturn can be a person. It can also be situations that are there to stabilize you. So this is also in your 10th house, which is quite parental, very much about bosses, very much about outcomes. The 10th house is about outcomes and outputs. So if I was in your shoes right now, I might ask questions to the effect of, I wonder how I could create more stability, because that's Saturn. I wonder how I could hear from that stable force in my life. I wonder how I could recognize where I need to be supported right now. All of these questions. And you might want to focus them about your outputs, your achievements, your legacy. I wonder how I can have more responsibility in life, because this is all a 10th house language. The support that you need right now is coming from your 10th house. So, if you're wondering how you can lead a magnificent life and maybe have greater levels of worldly responsibility, it's almost saying, look, I really want to have a free life. I want to have a great life. And I also recognize that I'm a conscious creator. I'm a powerful person. And with that comes great responsibility. So, the more you can understand that you are magnificent and you can lead a life, and there might be some responsibility attached to it, I think that's how you'll start to find these little pieces of your puzzle and help move forwards. Now, on the 18th, Jupiter goes into the Cazimi happens, and that is really backfilling anywhere where you don't have enough faith and ability in your, faith and confidence in your ability. But the more you open yourself up to the possibility that there are some big changes, 5 days later, there is that sense of hope. There's that sense of growth and optimism. So if I was in your shoes right now, Gemini ascendant, I would start asking myself big questions. The biggest questions I've ever asked myself ever. I would be, just taking as much time out to be on my own, because that's activating this 12th house. It's awakening you to the greater part of yourself. And I would also consider my legacy, because these two areas that you focus on with creativity, with openness, and with curiosity, these are the things you'll feel the intuitive guidance on. Now, Neptune is that intuitive knowing. So there may be this sense that actually how you've been standing in the world isn't for you. You might get that sense that actually the decisions you've made about what you need to be doing in life maybe aren't quite right. So anything that comes up as a little nagging doubt, because Neptune often shows us our doubts, take note of it. Don't kind of whitewash it. Don't kind of ignore it. Anything that comes up, say, that's interesting. I wonder where that came from. And then just wonder about it and see what comes up. You are absolutely channeling some really amazing energy that is creative, curious, and that is hopeful and is wanting to shift you. And then as we're coming into the end of May, Jupiter moves into your first house, which is a disruption pattern. It's starting to bring you out. It's almost like if you were a seed and you were a seedling, you were just cracking through the soil. That's Jupiter coming into your first house. And then literally within, well, not literally, because you're not actually a seed, but or are you? By the 4th, we've got the Venus Cazimi. We've also got the new moon. So we've got Venus, the moon, the sun, and Jupiter all in a beautiful alignment in the sign of Gemini in your first house. All of these are conspiring to bring everything that's hidden about you out into the open. So these are really cool moments right now. I see the rest of May is really about nurturing yourself in a sense of curiosity so that you really start to come out from the 25th of May. These are big times. So I'm going to leave that there for you. If you would like to deep dive with me on a one-to-one basis, then all of my details are below. Just underneath, you'll see in the description, there are ways to book directly into my diary and invite me to work with you. So lots and lots of love to you. Maybe I'll work with you at some point. Maybe I'll just be talking to you in another video, but lots of love to you. Thanks for listening. And I hope that this is all very useful for you. Bye for now. Okay, Cancer Ascendant, how are you right now? Oh, so many different things happening. Now, this is a forecast about the Uranus Cazimi that's happening today, the 13th of May, and the one that's coming in with Jupiter on the 18th of May. And I see them as like two steps in really helping to create this wholeness in you, this sort of uncovering, the naturalness. I see it as very much rewilding you. What's happening right now is you're sowing seeds to, and we'll talk about where those seeds are going in a moment. But there is something really sort of big shifting for everyone right now with these two cycles. I mean, if you want to know more about the actual Cazimis themselves, then check out part 1. You know, part 1 has all the information that you might need in terms of the actual astrology today on the 13th. This is when I'm recording this, on the day of the Cazimi. And then the Jupiter one on the 18th. You know, right now we are talking to immense levels of power. Like the sun is warming up and is absolutely magnifying all of the Uranian energies, which is the higher mind. It's that desire for independence, that desire to live in your truth, that uniqueness that is all about you. It's about being who you really are and being independent enough to recognize who you really are. Now, it might make us stand out in a crowd. And I recognize, you know, with the change energy that comes up with the Uranus Cazimi, we can feel anxious because, you know, when we shift in our vibration and our frequency, it takes us away from everything that has been safe and secure. And it takes us away from some of our contacts, our friends and stuff. You know, and the 11th house here is where it's been activated in your chart. Now, the 11th house is absolutely the place to do with colleagues, networks, people within, you know, a greater like part of a vision that you're part of. You know, it's a place where we co-create. It's a place where we collaborate. You know, so for instance, you might find the 11th house is really showing friends of friends. You know, you know, you've got your personal friends really here and here. The 11th is turning it global, and it's all of the connections. It's the 6 degrees, you know, from you to Jeff Bezos, for instance. It's like, how many degrees of separation is there? You know, like the 11th house is that thing that shifts us into a much bigger picture. And so you might be part of a way of thinking. You know, it might have something to do with your politics or your spirituality, which are very, very much 9th house things. Now, these two Cazimis are supported by, like, Saturn is supporting both of them. Neptune is supporting both of them. You know, they are absolutely working to help you right now. So the 9th house is where Saturn and Neptune are for you right now. Now, the 9th house is about your belief systems, your spirituality, your philosophies, your politics, how connected you are to everything that's not like where you grew up. So it's taking you out into the world. It's taking you into a much diverser place with people from different nationalities, different cultures. You're seeing things from a really expanded perspective. And Saturn right now for you is helping you naturalize and feel more confident, more stable in a more global world. You know, Saturn here is giving you the confidence to explore attitudes to do with all your belief systems. It's giving you the confidence to understand what feels right, what doesn't feel right, and how to be stable as an individual within a global energy. And so Saturn here, you might find that there are Saturn type people. Like the 9th house is a place where we might learn. It's also a place where we might find mentors. So you might find someone that's very Saturnian, i.e. maybe a bit older, maybe somebody who's lived with lots of experience and is ready to share that with you. Maybe somebody who you see as a spiritual teacher or a coach or something like that. So there are lots of 9th house people around and 9th house situations. You know, there's a lot of wisdom that you can connect into right now. And the best way for you to recognize this wisdom is to say, where does everything that I'm not familiar with live? Like, if I wanted to explore something that's unusual to me, where might I go? Because that's where the greatest access to this wisdom is coming from. Now, Neptune is about your intuitive knowing, and Neptune is also here. So you might also find that when you are away from home, out of your usual field of reference, when you are learning something new, maybe when you're going to a seminar or listening to an online podcast or an exhibition, expo, whatever, when you're tapping into new levels of learning, you'll find your Neptune is absolutely firing up. It's almost like the more information and viewpoints and perspectives you're hearing, the more your intuitive knowing is coming out. So you might well hear a kind of silent yes or a, ooh, that doesn't sit very well. And go with those feelings. Anytime that Neptune intel is coming up, it's there to inform you and let you know what's in alignment, what's not. Getting back to these Cazimis. So this Uranus Cazimi, Uranus in the 11th house is a bit disruptive, to be fair, because the 11th house is about our networks, the people we're connected to. It's also about stepchildren, if you have stepchildren. Uranus is showing you how you're going to be more independent from these people. So it's not saying you can't be connected to people or can't be part of a network or part of a group mind thing, but it's like it's saying, yes, you need to develop uniqueness within the groups that you exist within. And that's likely to bring up a bit of separation anxiety, because anytime we shift in our frequency, anytime we shift in our behaviors or our beliefs about ourselves, it separates us from people, because people come to us with the knowing, and we live within this kind of shared listening of, oh, look, there's Louisa. Louisa is like this. And so there's these sort of collective expectations that people might have on me. There might be collective expectations that you're perceiving that other people have for you. And the moment you start to think independently, you're separating yourself from the weight of other people's expectations. So you might find there's a bit of anxiety with this Cazimi, but it's not there to create problems for you. It's there to help you re-find yourself, regain yourself amongst the crowd. It's helping you to differentiate who you are. And it's like the more knowledge you're getting about everything outside of every kind of belief system you've had, the more you're wanting to stand strong. So you may well find, because like Uranus coming through the 11th, when it first came into the 11th house for you, the chances are you'd have caught on to some kind of new way of thinking, because Uranus is a trendsetter. Uranus is futuristic. It's also very social, and very much about sharing. It's quite diverse. So it's quite possible that as Uranus came into this 11th house, that you were kind of swallowed into this new way of being, which have been quite exciting, quite invigorating, would have opened your mind out. And yet now that Uranus is in its last year here, you're starting to recognize that even when we find groups that think like us and that entice us and inspire us, it's unwise to be a fully paid up member of, this is what I believe, and I believe it because everyone else does. It's really important that you're able to be part of something collective and also know where you start and end within that. And so that's what's really happening with this Uranus Cazimi, I think, is you're getting more confident with the wisdom of what you stand for and how you stand for it. And so there might be some change that comes from this awakening. You might realize that, that you need to say, well, yes, I'm with you in this respect. However, I also recognize that the full impact of this, if it was to roll out, takes me out of my inner alignment, takes me out of my integrity. So yeah, there's a lot to think about there. So it's a quite a big challenge. So what I would say is anywhere where you're feeling anxiety about standing out, this is something to work on right now. This is something that you're likely to get a breakthrough on with this Cazimi energy. And anywhere where you want to independently stand out or independently contribute or independently shock and delight the group that you are in, again, this Uranus Cazimi can work to inspire you and create what you need. So, you might choose to ask yourself questions like, I wonder what I might need to think, be, or do right now to be able to be a more independent thinker, to have ideas that might help my friends and my networks, so just keep redesigning how you're thinking. That's the challenge. Now, by the time Jupiter comes into the Cazimi on the 18th, in those 5 days, if you're following the energy and really kind of curiously thinking about your impact within a larger group, Jupiter is there to give you a bit of a nudge of warmth, a nudge of belonging, a nudge of believing in yourself. So what Jupiter Cazimi is there is to start this new cycle. Now, I say new cycle, Jupiter's not going to be back in a Cazimi in Taurus for a really, really long time, for another 11 years or so. The next Cazimi that he comes, the next time Jupiter has a Cazimi will be in 2025, but it's going to be in the sign of Cancer, not Gemini. So, the Cazimi's missing out this 12th house and coming straight to your first. So whatever you're doing right now, whatever belief in yourself you're building right now, the more you can allow yourself to feel comfortable in a big group, the better off you'll be for this next Cazimi, because this next Cazimi is a big one. It's going to be in your first house, really shifting your personal brand, how you're seen. Like from next year, you really are going to stand out from your crowd. So, when you bear that in mind, it makes more sense to really pay attention to your impact right now. So, this is almost like a stepping stone. You are coming away from the collective group because there is something very meaningful about you that is growing and developing, that's going to have you standing alone, but not necessarily lonely. It's going to have you standing for something in your own way, fully, in this next year. So, when you see that next part of the story, it becomes even more imperative to develop confidence in yourself right now. So, yeah, I really, as I'm unpacking this more, I just think the more you can curiously find out about things without judging it. The 9th house is a place where we could learn pretty much anything we need to learn. If you're only ever learning things about the things you already want to know, but not cross-examining it from a completely different perspective or mindset, you could go down one road and end up that you've gone down a blind alley because you can't really see all the sides. A blind alley isn't, I guess is somewhere where you're only seeing ahead, but you can't see any of the context around it. What's really coming up for you right now is there's a lot of context around you that is not necessarily shifting you down a blind alley. It's opening up the blind alley. So you're moving ahead, but you can also look from side to side. And have a lot more freedom in the way you're thinking. So this is really big. Now, where is this all heading? Because, on the 25th, Jupiter's coming into your 12th house. We've also got the sun is going in there very, very shortly. We'll have Venus moving in there as well. And then there's a Venus Cazimi in the 12th, and the new moon, the next new moon is in the 12th house. Now, the 12th house is all about your unconscious programming, all of the rules and the rules about the way you're thinking, your belief systems. It's like the internal workings of your mind. And it's also deconstructing. The 12th house is a place where we can go through real program changes. And so what's quite interesting to hear or maybe ponder upon is Uranus is creating this energy of independence for you amongst the crowd and amongst the networks that you've grown very familiar with. Where Jupiter and eventually Uranus is heading is into your 12th house, where you're not led by the group anymore. You're led by your own intuition. You're led by your own connection to God or source or whatever you believe is there. You are really leading yourself. And so from here, where you're part of the group, to here where you are declaring yourself, hey, this is who I am. In between that, you're going into this almost, it's like you're in a retreat, like a spiritual retreat, an emotional retreat, where life is helping you internalize these changes at a really intuitive level. So yeah, again, I can't stress enough your like how the the sooner you can get used to any separation anxiety. And that to me is the bit that I would focus on. If you're feeling anxious about feeling separated from a group or an ideology or a way of thinking, that's holding you back from really fully developing into who you really are. And like right at the start, I said, this journey is about the miracle of rewilding you. This is the miracle of wholeness and uncovering and discovery, your real true inner beauty. And your true inner beauty is not meant to be muted and dissolved down into one group. Yes, it's okay to be identified within a group, and yet it's still important that you shine being yourself. So that's what I think it's all about right now for you. So I hope that's helpful, Cancer Ascendant. If you do want to connect with me on a personal level, then if you look underneath, you'll see in the description, there's lots of different ways you can connect with me, and invite me to work with you if that feels good. But anyway, sending you lots and lots of love. Enjoy the Cazimis, and catch you in another video real soon. Bye for now. Okay, so Leo Ascendant, this is your forecast for the Uranus Cazimi and Jupiter Cazimi taking place between today, the 13th of May, when I'm recording this, and the 18th of May, when Jupiter Cazimi happens. Now, in this forecast, really what I'm doing is talking about how you're coming back into your unique self. That's very much one of the messages of the Uranus Cazimi today. And then, you know, the journey where you're coming into that deep, renewed sense of self-confidence, growth and hope that the Jupiter Cazimi is bringing up. Now, if you want to know more about the actual the planetary placements at the time of each of these Cazimis and what they might mean, and you know, where they are in terms of their own cycles. For instance, like Uranus Cazimi in Taurus, next year it will also be in Taurus for the very, very last time before moving into Gemini for 6 or 7 goes. But Jupiter, this Cazimi, the next one will be in the sign of Cancer. So if you wanted to know any of the sort of background technicalities of that, then go into part 1 of this show. It was released yesterday as a separate video, and you get a lot more information. Anyway, back to this one, this forecast. This is really, as far as I can see this is a journey of wholeness. You know, this whole series of the 2 Cazimis, the fact that we've got the Sun going into Gemini, we've got Venus going into Gemini, we've got Jupiter going into Gemini on the 25th. Then we've got the Venus Cazimi on the 4th of June. We've also got the new moon in Gemini. To be fair, this to me feels like we are on a journey of discovery, uncovery, and very much about wholeness and getting into the naturalness of who you are. You know, these 2 Cazimis that start it all off, they are in the sign of Taurus. And Taurus, as you probably know, is all about sowing seeds. It's very natural. I really see this as rewilding you for who you were born to be, programmed to be, and so on and so forth. Now, in particular, these 2 planets, Uranus and Jupiter, they're also very forward thinking. So, you know, Uranus and Jupiter both have this ability to sense trends and to see into the future, to want to know what the next step is. You know, Uranus is very, very happy to create change. When it feels that something's out of alignment, it wants to get back in alignment. So there's a really strong feeling of truth, freedom, independence, and deep levels of change. Jupiter has a similar theme, I would say, you know, only it's more expansive, you know, so change is involved, but it's more expanding. You know, how can we get bigger? How can we feel more, be more, produce more? And Jupiter's also very hopeful and very confident. And so, you know, each of these cycles that are starting, like the Uranus Cazimi, is essentially the Sun and Uranus exactly the same spot as we're looking at it across the ecliptic. And the Sun is putting all of the energies of your personality, your identity, your ego, it's kind of super boosting it in a Uranian way. So it's starting this feel of what would it be like to be free? What would it feel like to be independent? What would it feel like to have a big breakthrough and create some change? You know, what would it feel like to step it up a gear? and have a shift. Now, one of the things with the Leo ascendant is obviously, you know, people with a Leo ascendant tend to be really quite excited by growth and quite excited by the thought of expressing themselves. So those sides of the Jupiter and the Uranus energy are really quite in alignment with Leo. But one thing that I've noticed with people with a Leo ascendant is their sense of loyalty and also their sense of wanting to keep people around. You know, they are quite gregarious and like to have a sense of familiarity within the people that they're around. Now, one of the things with the shifts that the Uranus Cazimi could bring in particular is this shift of who you are. You know, if you're going to become a bit more independent or a bit more unique, if you're going to really tune into your unique self that this Cazimi is offering as a possibility, it may well create a feeling of separation anxiety, you know, because the moment you shift in your vibration, the moment you start to really be who you are or who you're born to be, you're immediately shifting away from the frequency and vibration that people know you to be. So it's like you're moving away from the expectations that people hold for you and on you, or try to put on you. And so if you are one of these people who really reveres being loved by people and adored by the people around them, this could create some deep levels of anxiety for you. Sure, you do want to shift, and sure, you do want to experience that expansion and that feeling of magnificence, which is absolutely a kind of Leo theme, I would say, you know. But the shift could actually end up taking you away from what you hold as good for you. Now, what I would absolutely recommend you maybe quiet your mind with, or take some comfort in, and that is that the shifts that are going on right now have really been going on for quite a while anyway. You know, you've already started this process. You know, when Uranus went over from the 9th house to the 10th house, it really triggered something within your chart to do with showing up in a new way. You know, Uranus in the 10th house is very, very prominent. It creates a lot more of a theme that you are looking for independence and looking for freedom to completely be yourself, to be able to, you know, have fun in your life in a very sort of truthful way to you. It really helps you, in fact, sort of dig into what feels right. And so actually this Cazimi has happened quite a few times already. I can't remember if it's the 4th or the 5th one or the 6th one, but you know, the Uranus Cazimis that have happened in recent times have been in the 10th house. So you have been practicing independence and becoming more free in the way that you're seen in the world. If you think about it, the 10th house is the public face. It's our outward face. It's how we're known. It's what our legacy is known as. You know, are we appreciated by people? Do people recognize us? And, you know, in such a public place in the 10th house, Uranus can bring up quite a few shocks along the way. So, and especially that it's an angular house, I imagine that you've already had quite a few shocks and surprises and delights and probably some big breakthroughs. So this might just be the latest one. And it's followed up straight after with the Jupiter Cazimi. Now, what I really like about this is any freedom that you're creating for yourself right now. And I would really recommend that where you're already starting to feel like maybe you haven't been free enough since your last one, you know, if you're starting to feel like your career, how you're seen, how you're observed is getting a little bit too staid or feeling a little bit too restricted, then really sort of breathe into the energy of freedom and breathe into the energy of change and shifting, and just see how that settles with you. You know, you don't have to agree to do any changes, but even if you were to curiously, and I say curious because it's hopeful, it's optimistic, and it's open, you know, it creates an open possibility for you. If you were to curiously wonder to yourself, I wonder how I can find greater freedom in the way I express myself. I wonder how I could find greater freedom in the way I work, the way I'm known. I wonder if I could find more fun, freedom, truth, and authenticity for myself in how I carry my part of the global responsibility, because the 10th house is also a place where we are responsible, you know, where we do show up The 10th house is quite parental. So, we are stepping into greater levels of authority in many respects. So you might be thinking, how can I be an authority in my own right without it making me feel restricted? How can I feel more free in being an authority? So these are all good questions to ask yourself. Now, 5 days later, the Jupiter Cazimi happens, and then you might start asking yourself, how can I feel really confident to build on my sense of freedom? How can I feel confident to grow in this new direction? What else might I need to support me along the way? Now, speaking of support, it's quite handy because you've got Saturn and Neptune that are both really working well with the Uranus and Jupiter energy in this month ahead. Now, Saturn and Neptune are firmly in the 8th house. So in terms of the support systems that we've got, or you've got, there's Saturn and also Neptune. So Saturn is an energy that is stable, quite reserved, quite conservative. Saturn is really the energy that is trying to make everything correct. It's trying to fit everything into a box. It's trying to build structures, and so it's very stabilizing, and Saturn is working really, really well with Uranus and Jupiter. Now, Saturn is coming from the 8th house. Now, Saturn in the 8th house is, I think, quite troubling. It's not a very easy energy to cope with. And also you've got Neptune that's also been in the 8th house for ages. Again, not very easy. But Neptune is, I'll come to in a second, but Saturn has been in this 8th house for just over a year now. Now, in the 8th house, what Saturn is doing is helping you get really clear about your boundaries, getting really clear about where people are putting things on you, expecting things from you that maybe feel a bit restrictive. Saturn here will have helped you to get really, really clear on any behaviors that restrict you, on anything that feels off. It probably also will have brought up some blame, shame, guilt, anger patterns from previous moments in your life and from different people that you've been close with. It's quite possible as well that with Saturn going through this area at the moment as well, that you might find that the relationships between you and people that are blaming, shaming, guilting, and resenting you and making that obvious. It may well be that these relationships are kind of off at the moment, not so constant. So, at some level, Saturn is helping you to sort the wheat from the chaff. Saturn is helping you to know who you want in your life and really to know who you don't want in your life. And so I actually think Saturn here is actually quite helpful because in terms of how the Uranus Cazimi energy, which is helping you to get more independent, helping you to discover the naturalness of who you are, helping you to get rewilded, like to tap into maybe some of the zanier, more unique, more offbeat aspects of you, that maybe you've forgotten. These are part of your star quality, and in the 10th house, we do show up. We show up to perform. And yes, we do show up to, hold some responsibility. We become an authority in our own right. But here with Uranus, you're doing it in your own unique way. So in many ways, Saturn has helped you understand what feels good and what feels off, who feels like they're stopping you from freeing yourself, and those who feel like they're supporting you, really genuinely supporting you. So I think Saturn here has helped you to boundary yourself from people who are negating you. Now, if you are getting people from the past coming back in, you might choose to ask yourself and maybe put yourself in the role of maybe a protective father or a grandparent that you love and trust. You might choose to ask yourself, what is this person seeking from me right now? And really think about it, from a third party perspective. Think of it as if you're looking at the situation of you and somebody else, and see it from that perspective of maturity, that maybe a father, I say that, maybe I've heard from so many of you in the comments that it doesn't sound like many people have a great parent experience, to be honest, but I think these are the days we're living in. But, think of how somebody who more mature, more stable, more maybe somebody with a bit more discernment than you might view this these interactions. So, there is the opportunity to use a lot of discernment from your recent experience to know who's going to help you move and shift forwards in your career and shift in the way you're seen in the world. And then Saturn and Jupiter are working together as well, which is actually really quite helpful. Jupiter can really move on. It's like Saturn has laid the grounds. Saturn has helped you get clear on who you can trust, who you don't want to trust. And then Jupiter can take that feeling of stability and build on it. Now, Neptune, having come through here, has also helped you get really clear about manipulation games that might have been played out. And like I said, Neptune has been here for a long time. Neptune takes about 13 years to go through a house or through a 30-degree sign. In that time, you probably have succumbed to being guilted up and shamed and embarrassed, because Neptune can bring a lot of that to you. And the chances are close family relationships, some of those relationships have felt like you didn't really know where you started and they began. Like the lines between what belongs to you and what belongs to them have been blurred for quite some time. It's very difficult to assert yourself. It's very difficult to make your way in the world when you're really not sure where your foundations are. So what's really good here is you've had enough of this going on for a long time now that you've got the intuitive knowing, even if your intuition is not saying stop, like if you're not getting the words in your head in a really, really obvious way. Even without that, I'm pretty sure your body now has a very strong response to something that feels right and something that feels wrong. So Neptune is here. If at the time of the Cazimis, as you're thinking about shifting, like just think, if you become aware of how you might want to shift, become slightly more independent, become slightly freer in the way you are, slightly wilder, see how that feels. Are you getting these kind of odd sensations in your body, or are you starting to feel, actually, that's okay? Actually, I can do this. So really trust your body. Your body is there to absolutely help you. The 8th house is full of intuition, and having Neptune going through there and Saturn will have really helped you to sharpen up on what's going on. I do really reiterate, at the start when these planets go into here, it often signals a crisis. But, with, Neptune right at the end of the 8th house, I really do think you've probably learned all the lessons that you needed to in terms of who to trust, and your body will have been playing all those signs out for you. So you've got these as supportive measures. So as I said, this is about you sowing seeds to feel like your true self, and then to take those seeds and grow in confidence. That's what this whole sequence of events is. This is what it's representing as far as I can see for you. Now, Jupiter is going to be going into Gemini on the 25th, so in 12 days' time. And with that, you've got the Sun, Venus will be there as well. You've got the two benefics, Venus and Jupiter, and the Sun, which I think we can all argue, really does feel like it's our personality. There is something about the Sun that seems light and bright and quite, it's helping you move forwards. So these are 3 forward moving planets that feel really kind of good, all working together in your 11th house. To me, what this is signaling is, as you free yourself up, the more independent and truthful and in integrity you are to who you are, and the more you build on your confidence, the more you are sowing the seeds to enjoy the success that's coming through your collaborations. The 11th house is about what you're co-creating. It's very, very collaborative. I've said here at the bottom, the 4th of June, which is the Venus Cazimi, very much about loving moments, but it's also very much like a Midas touch. It's a sweet spot that's ready to activate. And so with Jupiter going to be in a conjunction with it, and the Sun, and you've also got the new moon around this time as well, this is leading you into a very collaborative time when luck is on your side, when friendships, networks, they really get the feel of who you now are. You've got much better boundaries, much better intuition to know who to trust, who not to. And so you get a real feel for just how you want to collaborate, where you start and where you end. So it feels like you've got all the right structures in place to make a success of it. So this is really how I'm seeing this progress for you. And to be frank, I'm quite excited for you. I really think collaborations is where it's going to be at, especially if you've got things natally in the sign of Gemini. You know, all of those planets are going to be absolutely invigorated and activated as both the Sun, Venus, and then later Jupiter go over all of these points. So I'm really excited for you, Leo Ascendants. Now, if you think you would like some more personal one-on-one forecasting, then just see the links below. I've got links of how you can connect with me. So if you wanted to invite me to work with you, all you need is just below in the description field. But anyway, wishing you a really great Uranus Cazimi today, a great Jupiter one. You really are on your journey of wholeness, and I'm very excited. So let's connect again real soon. And yeah, good luck with it all. Okay, so Virgo Ascendant. So these are the forecasts for the Uranus Cazimi, the Jupiter Cazimi, and kind of leading us naturally on to the following Cazimi, which is the Venus one that will be coming up as well. So this is quite a strong, fast acting time. You know, Uranus creates change, and it's quite unpredictable. And it really brings up a sense of integrity and truth, especially in the ninth house, which is where it's at the moment. Like the ninth house is very much about higher context, about seeing a much bigger picture, really knuckling into the truth and the loving the learning of sort of expanding your knowledge to find out the truth of what you think you already know, against what you think you would love to know. You know, there is something really expansive about the ninth house. Now, Jupiter does have a natural resonance with the ninth house, because if you think about it, the sign of Sagittarius is the ninth sign, and Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. So there's some lovely kind of synchronicity there. You know, it just feels like there's a similar vibe. You know, Jupiter is very, very happy to come into a role of mentorship, of teaching, of learning, and the sharing of really high-minded ideals. And of course, Uranus at some level is the higher mind. It is a symbol of consciousness. So, you know, having had Uranus going through this part of your chart for quite some time now, Virgo, I really think that your way of seeing the world and what you know to be true about the world will have changed quite considerably. I'm really sure of that, because every year the Sun and Uranus come together. And so, you know, in the last 3 years at least, the last 3 Uranus Cazimis have already been in the sign of Taurus, activating this part of your chart. So, you know, what I would ask you right now is, how have you been becoming freer in the way you see the world each year, year on year, on year, on year? Now, this would have been happening in the time of May, because, you know, Uranus is, you know, in the sign of Taurus, which is really the end of April, the beginning of May. So what has been happening around this late springtime that has allowed you to sort of gain in that sense of, I need freedom, I need space, I really want to be my truth and explore the truth in a much greater way. And there's a respect for intellectual freedom. You know, it's not, and you might be a bit idealistic, but I think the need for choice and the need for the free expression of ideas is really, really strong for you. So that's something that you've been working on for quite some time. Now, Jupiter's Cazimi, this is you know, next time it comes up, it's going to be in the sign of Cancer. So, you know, it's not like you're carrying on with a very strong Taurus Jupiter story. You know, Jupiter in 12 years time 12 days time is also going to be in the sign of Gemini. So really what Jupiter is doing here is giving you one last shot in the arm to sorry, that's a bad description. It's giving one last boost to the idea of creating more knowledge, more interest, more curiosity, more possibilities. The ninth house is a place where we can travel. If we're not physically traveling, we might be mentally traveling or spiritually traveling. And so whatever's going on with Jupiter here is it's been expanded upon. You know, how much more freedom, how much more hope, how much more joy can this area of your life bring you right now? So I really do see that the first one, which is happening today, the Uranus Cazimi, is about you coming back to life. It's like you're taking a breath from a new, freer space. You know, this is about the uncovery of who you were meant to be and who you really are. So you're discovering yourself. It's about naturalness. I really see that you're rewilding yourself, because Uranus is quite wild and quite homespun. So there's some very interesting energy here. Now, one thing that might be a little bit difficult to work out, and you might find part one, my video that I released yesterday, to be quite helpful, because I talk more about all the other planets and how they actually play into the actual moments of these Cazimis. But anyway, Uranus creates more independence. And of course, when we're talking about independence of thought and philosophy and religion and politics and things like that, you know, these are all things that we often find comfort in. So we often are drawn to, it's a bit like birds of a feather flock together, you know, so people come together because of their similar mindsets. So if Uranus has been playing a new game of independence and a new game of being free in how you're perceiving the world, you may well find a bit of separation anxiety crops up. You know, the feeling that you might be about to develop beyond or to the side of where you've been before. It might just be a little bit awkward. It might just feel a little bit uneasy to find yourself feeling a little bit separate from people that you may have had similar ideologies with. But again, you know, the ninth house is actually a place of tolerance. So I really do think, like any separation anxiety that might come up, can be easily worked through. I mean, this is one of the most comfortable places, I would say, to have these two Cazimis take place, you know, in considering the whole of the chart. And if it's really difficult, it might be because of your unique placements within your birth chart. So if you've got things in the other fixed signs, that could make it a little bit difficult. But essentially, it's there to uplift and expand you. Now, you've also got some support going on, which is great. You know, Saturn in the seventh. Yeah, so some of your contacts over this last year might have felt a little bit taciturn, might have felt a little bit serious. But actually, what you've got in your life right now is you've got some very stable people. You know, you have this ability to tap into people who maybe have a bit more longevity in terms of their beliefs, in terms of how they're living. You know, you've been through quite a few shifts recently, so you've got some more stable people around you, and they're just there should you need to tap into them. But the degree that Saturn is in at the moment is really, really supportive to both of these Cazimis. It's helpful. It's a steadying force. So maybe, you know, if you get these ideas of what you want to do, maybe go off on the big adventure, you might want to check in with one of your more stable friends, not so that they can talk you out of it, but just because they've got a level of discernment that will help you see your new plan or your new ideology from a new perspective. And that's obviously always helpful. Now, you've also got Neptune in the seventh house. Now, it's been in the seventh house for a long, long time. And this will have created a little bit of insecurity, most likely, with some of the people in your life. They might not have seemed as stable or as reliable as you might have liked. However, it's brought quite a few spiritual people into your world, and people who are possibility thinkers, people who see something new, see something expansive and think, yeah, I could flow to that. You know, people who are quite creative. So again, you've got creative help and spiritual help, and also people with a high level of discernment. So if you are needing any kind of encouragement, these people are really, really close by. You know, they really want to help you out. Now, one of the things I think is also worth sharing is the fact that, you know, the next real movement is taking you into the 10th house. So like I said, Jupiter is going into Gemini on the 25th. We will also have the Sun there, Venus there. Venus and the Sun will make the Cazimi. There's also going to be the new moon there. There's a lot of energy moving your experience currently, your experience of expanded awareness, your experience of expanded spirituality and viewpoints, and the feeling of hope and reverence, and the feeling of belief in yourself. It's almost like the more you are able to expand the way you think and believe and explore the world, the more confident you are. It's almost like the more space you're creating for yourself, the more comfortable you are in your own body. And I think that's very, very helpful, because this is giving you a clarity of who you are and who you are not. And as all of the attention is turning to your 10th house, which is how you express yourself, how you get seen, how you get rewarded, how you get celebrated, and how you come into your own level of authority, this is really, really helpful. So I think there are some good times coming for you, Virgo ascendant. I mean, just as an aside, obviously your ruling planet is Mercury. The ruling planet of your 10th house is also Mercury. I just think the level of interest going into this other Mercury ruled sign is also seen as an extra sign of luck, and an extra, there's an extra richness to it, and also an extra speed. So yeah, this is a time to hold on to your hats, and to also really set your sights quite high and quite broad, and absolutely have the highest intention that you can find. All of this is going to stand you in really, really good stead. So there you go. I hope that's helpful. If you'd like something a bit more personal, where I deep dive really into your chart and your potentials and things, all you need to do is just invite me to work with you. And all of my details are below in the description fields. There's links. All you need to do is select how long you'd like to work with me for, click, and it's pretty much done. So yeah, if I can be of help personally or just in these videos, I wish you a really great sort of Cazimi moment, and hope to catch you again real soon in another video. Lots of love to you. Bye for now. Okay, so on to Libra Ascendant. Libra Ascendant, this is your forecast for the two Cazimis that are happening within 5 days of each other. So the first one is happening on the 13th of May. That's the Uranus Cazimi at 23 degrees in the sign of Taurus. And then the second one is the Jupiter Cazimi on the 18th of May at 28 degrees in the sign of Taurus. Now, using a whole sign Western tropical system here, these are falling into your 8th house. And so what I'm going to be doing with this forecast is talking about, I guess, the miracle of being you right now. You know, what is your journey to wholeness? I know, I should say right from word go, I mean, you guys have had quite a tough wicket in recent times, because, you know, you've got Chiron coming through here. You've also had the North Node and the South Node across your 1st and your 7th houses. And then the total solar eclipse, you know, these have been very, you know, a good, not a good few tough months. I don't mean to say it like that, but I've noticed that people with ascendant or rising sign Libra have really struggled. What I want to share with you in terms of this forecast is how the energy is about to shift, how it's about to evolve, and how it's stepping you out of the Taurus energy and into the Gemini energy, which is really highlighting up your 9th house. Now, I really do think that this is going to be very, very helpful for you, because, you know, the 9th house is a place of freedom, and it's a place of growth, and it's a place of adventure. It's a place where we can almost lose our identity somehow, you know, where we can goof off, where we can just feel like there's a little bit more space for us. So in terms of how like dense and tight life has felt around you in recent months, what's coming up is creating this sense of space and wonder and curiosity. So, get ready for your big adventure is what I would say. Also, the next thing that I want to really sort of pull into your awareness right now, and that is that Saturn and Neptune, even though in the 6th house they might have created some difficulty, because Saturn by his very nature does tend to bring us a bit of difficulty along the way, and Neptune can bring us a lot of fuzzy-headed thinking. Neptune isn't a very easy planet to work with. But these two in this month ahead, in particular right now at the time of the Uranus Cazimi and the Jupiter Cazimi, they're actually working hand in hand. So I want to explore this and explore how you can use today's energy of the Uranus Cazimi, and then the next Cazimi on the 18th to step you through these energies and into this 9th house. That's my goal, because as I look at this, I can really see that the Uranus Cazimi energy is about coming back to who you are meant to be. It really is about finding freedom. It really is about really hearing your integral voice, really knowing what you're authentic about and what is true for you. Uranus is full of changes and ups and downs, and is very releasing. It can create a feeling of separation between us and people that maybe are no longer for us. In fact, the funny thing is I spoke like that when I was doing the Aries ascendant forecast, because obviously you're on the polarity here of this is me, that's you. It's about you as people and everyone else. And sort of Aries has got the reverse pattern of that. But for a long time, Uranus has been really blowing up your 8th house, and the 8th house is a difficult one. The 8th house is about the shared values that you have with other people that are close to you. Uranus here is showing you, and has been showing you for quite some time, that you've needed to get freer from the people around you that limit you, that cause you to doubt yourself, that try to put you in a box, that put too many expectations over you. Uranus here will have met up with the sun quite a few times. There have been several Uranus Cazimis going through the sign of Taurus, always at the end of April, the beginning of May. So this is the latest one and the second to last one. The Cazimi in 2026 with Uranus is going to be in the 9th house, and that's going to be a real sort of hold on to your hats time. That's when real true freedom starts to come in. But that's not to say you can't experience some now. But what this Cazimi is doing is helping you just really free yourself even more from the limiting situations that you've found yourself in. So I guess one of the things that makes this so difficult is when we free ourselves from situations that we don't want to be in, or that maybe feel a bit too restrictive, feel a bit too small, feel like they're crushing us. It can also bring up a feeling of separation, and with that, the anxiety of the separation, the anxiety of breaking free from people or situations that just don't feel like they're completely aligned to who they are. What I would say about this is it's really natural to get anxious about this. And any changes and shifts that you're making right now, if that person is or situation is for you, if they are going to be absolutely matching or mirroring your vibration, if they're also going through a shift, they will find you, they will come back to you. I guess what we maybe feel a bit anxious about is the unknown. So what I see you doing here is making bigger decisions for yourself, which may well pull you away from people that are maybe suffocating you, that are maybe just feeling a little bit too tight, a little bit too close, that situations that aren't offering you as much freedom. And so that could be really, really difficult. However, each of these steps that you're making is for you to find greater authenticity and greater independence. So, obviously when we're in the middle of a change, it can feel really quite disorienting, and it can feel quite uncomfortable. And unfortunately, the 8th house isn't necessarily known for its comfort. It is the 8th house. It's about death and dying. It's about going from one state of being to another state of being. It's about the evolution. It's about the transformation. So by its very nature, it's not very comfortable. However, you've had Jupiter going through this as well. And Jupiter is a planet of expansion and comfort. You know, Jupiter is there to give you hope. It's there to give you some encouragement. It's there to give you confidence that when you really do know your truth, that you're onto the right truth, you're on your right path, and it's giving you the encouragement to take the next step. It's almost, even though I'm not particularly religious, I'm reminded of the story of the footsteps. You know, when somebody's walking along the beach and, you know, having a conversation, and Jesus is basically saying, you know, I'm with you. And they're saying, but there's only one set of footprints. And he's like, yeah, but I'm carrying you. You know, sorry about my terrible paraphrasing here, but, you know, you may not feel that you're supported through life right now. However, Jupiter is really walking hand in hand with you. To me, it feels like whatever choices you need to make, you will be free to make those choices. And it might feel like you're between a rock and a hard place. It might feel like the choices that are there for you feel like you should never have to make those choices. And yet you are not alone. And as a Jupiter Cazimi comes in, that's to give you the faith and the knowledge that actually you've got deep beliefs. You can grow through this. You can stay hopeful and optimistic. So this is stepping you out. Now, one of the great things about this Cazimi, the Jupiter Cazimi on the 18th, is like literally a week later, he's moving into the sign of Gemini and kind of bringing all of this energy into the 9th house. So the energy of the shifts that you're making, the changes that you're making, and the fact that you might need a bit of comfort, you might need to feel confident in yourself. As Jupiter is moving into the 9th house, it's bringing you that relief. It's bringing you that sense of, there is this new sense of space for me. There is this new place for me. There is this new sense of learning, expansion, and adventure. The 9th house represents everything that is outside of your current experience. Like the 3rd house is very much about your current environment and what you know and what you might learn at local schools. But the 9th house is very much about everything that's not from your usual environment. So Jupiter is really taking you by the hand and saying, look, if you really are ready to free yourself, and if you really are ready to make a change, then come with me and we can go on this amazing Technicolor, you know, ride, and we can go on this amazing adventure. So he's asking you to, you know, like tune into what you would like. How would you like to be delighted? How would you like to be curious? How would you like to expand? There's all sorts of possibilities in the 9th house, and you can't possibly know them all. That's the great thing, is that Jupiter is likely to bring a lot more opportunities to you. Now, at the end of May, you'll have already had the Sun move through the 8th house and into the 9th. Venus will have done the same. The next Cazimi will be the Venus Cazimi on the 4th of June. Now, at some level, it creates loving moments. And in the 9th house, I would say it creates loving opportunities with like-minded people, or loving opportunities to connect with different people, or loving opportunities to feel connected to life itself. I'm also saying that it's a bit like the Midas touch, and that you're activating something that could bring you a lot of luck, love, and a feeling of, relief, I would say. You know, the new moon, the Cazimi, you've got these ongoing conjunctions between Venus, the Sun, and Jupiter and Uranus. So I think we are like, this is moving you into a whole new energy. It's helping you to look back at the traumas that were going on March, April time, and it's moving you beyond those with a new way of thinking and a new pattern. Now, one thing I haven't spoken about is the energizing and supportive energies of Saturn and Neptune. So first of all, let's do Saturn. So Saturn is a stabilizing planet. Saturn can be known as being a bit boring. Saturn gets a very bad rep. You know, at some level, he's like the parent, the parental figure, the boss, the person that's in charge, but it could also be a mentor. It could be a beloved spiritual teacher. It could be your grandparents who take you by the hand and say, you're going to go through this. And of course, they've seen a whole lifetime of ups and downs. And so for them, your ups and downs right now might have the confidence to know that it will pass in the way that you can't quite see yet because you're in it. So there's the opportunity of support from elders, from people who are holding a lot more responsibility than you. And you're likely to find them in and around your home and work. It's like they're everywhere where it's normal. So you're unlikely to find them when you follow your Jupiter heart that's taking you into the wilderness and into the unknown and into the great expanse. But leading up to there, you're going to be finding lots of Saturnian types and lots of structures around you that can just remind you that even though things are feeling really tight right now, you are also part of a natural order. And so the balance for you is, how can you let the natural order support you through these changes, and just let you know that there are support measures. You are going to get through this. Now, the other thing that I would say in terms of Saturn here could often Saturn, when he comes into the 6th house, brings up issues with your health. But he's been here for over a year now, so the chances are anything that you needed to change about your health has already been looked at. And so Saturn coming through here is really saying, okay, I'm guessing you've got better habits now. You're probably a lot more responsible. You've probably got your money in a much better organization. So Saturn will have been lining things up, helping you get a lot more regulated. Why would he do that? And how does that support you? Well, it does support you because you've found a bit more stability, and because you've been a little bit more methodical at home and trying to narrow down all those loose ends. It's actually creating a lot more freedom for you, because once you streamline things, you've got more time to do the things you really want to do in the 9th house. So this is how Saturn can help you. And again, these reliable, responsible people around you could also be people that can assist you with that. They can take off some of the hard work for you. Now, Neptune, having gone through your 6th house, will have given you a deeper appreciation for how things can get out of hand quite quickly. So if you dream, if you're dreaming a lot of crazy stuff but not putting the energy in to support it, it will have shown you just how out of balance your life can get. Neptune in this part of your chart can get you to dream much bigger visions, but not always give you the moment to fully understand them. Now, that doesn't sound like it's particularly helpful, but have you considered this? Have you considered that you have, over the last 13 years or 12 years or so that Neptune's been through this, have you considered that you've become a lot more intuitive about the organization of your life, a lot more intuitive about your health, a lot more intuitive about when something feels a little bit off and like it's going to throw your balance out? Neptune going through this is challenging. It will have created a sense of instability in terms of how you organize your life on a day-to-day basis, how you stay healthy, how you keep your money organized. It will have created quite a few almost like dead ends, and areas where there's some sort of unconscious things happening, where it's almost like things go into a black hole and you can't quite find where you put this or when it happened, almost like a fog. But Neptune is coming out of that now. And really, any time that things got foggy, I think it's an indication that we're not fully utilizing our creativity and our intuition in our day-to-day living. But whenever a planet gets to the end of his time in a sign, it's really done it. And it's been in the sign of Pisces. It's been in your 6th house for a really long time now, for 12 years. It's got one more year left, or not even a year really. It's kind of 9 months, and it will go in and out. But it's already already I think the promise of Neptune is that, what he's done to your 6th house is shown you that, a life without magic, a life without a mystery is actually really undesirable. So, he's created all these kind of weird scenarios in your personal life so that you could learn to manage it with a bit more expectation and a bit more wonder. Now, the danger is it does go wrong, but it can also go right. And this is where the crux of it is, because Jupiter is moving into your 9th house. You need to believe in something bigger than yourself in the 9th house. The 9th house is all about expansion. It's all about the big adventure. And so, Neptune here has helped you build up some natural intuition to be naturally inspired in the day-to-day living of your life, to be naturally inspired by the things around you. So I actually think Neptune here is also able to support and inspire Uranus and Jupiter, and definitely help Jupiter on his way. So yeah, some big shifts, really, really big shifts. Now, you might find it useful to have a personal reading. And if you choose that that's what you'd like to do, then all of my details are below in the description. All you need to do is click on the link that applies to you and invite me to work with you. But anyway, whether I work with you directly or whether you watch these videos, I hope that you're able to understand that the Uranus Cazimi and the Jupiter Cazimi, they are here to shift you onto your next step. And it's part of an ongoing liberation. You are being freed up from taking other people's expectations so seriously. You're being freed up to give yourself the space to act in accordance to who you are and not in accordance to what other people are expecting from you, which is really hard for you with the Libra and ascendant. So this is your time. You are coming on and into your own. And when Jupiter goes into the 9th house, things are going to expand and really get quite delightful quite quickly. So there you go. I hope that was helpful to you, and look forward to connecting with you again real soon. Lots of love. So let's have a look at Scorpio then. So Scorpio rising or Scorpio ascendant. This is your forecast. I say your forecast. It's also mine because I've got Scorpio ascendant. Let's see what comes up as I tune into this chart. So we've got the Uranus Cazimi happening today on the 13th of May. And also we've got the Jupiter Cazimi taking place on the 18th of May. So there's 5 days difference, and they've both got a very different energy. They're both creating a different dynamic for you. Now, the Uranus energy and the Jupiter energy are activating in your 7th house, which is about other people. It's the people in your life. What do you need to know about the people in your life right now that you don't already know, that maybe is stopping you from feeling as free and unfettered as you would like to feel? That's my first big question, because let's face it, Uranus has been in this part of your chart for a long time. Using the Western tropical and also whole sign chart here, Uranus has been here for 6 years or so. Will be here for a little while longer, but this is his second to last Cazimi in the sign of Taurus. So you've gone through a whole series of Sun Uranus cycles in this part of your chart, and each time that's happened, each like late spring, sort of from the end of April, and taking us right now to the middle of May, each of these Cazimis, as they've happened each year, these Uranus Cazimis have been asking you to recognize that other people are themselves and that you can't govern other people. Uranus going through this part of your chart just lets you know that you can't rely on people, and that maybe people are bringing change into your life in a way that feels quite disabling. But at the same time, it's offering you an opportunity to see that actually, if you're trying to control the people in your life, you could end up with a really dull life, first of all. But like the people that are coming into your life and creating these struggles, these power struggles, these shifts, these changes, as they're changing, it's really impacting on you. Really what's going on is a sense of, it's creating a sense of liberation for you in terms of your relationships. So what I really see with this second to last Uranus Cazimi in your 7th house is the gift of this placement. And that is to not take people as seriously as you have. Really seriously don't. You know, it's not your business to know what other people are thinking about you. It's not your business to micromanage other people around you. What is your business is to feel free in yourself and concern yourself with how you're being. And so I think the Uranus Cazimi, which is sowing the seeds of independence, of breakthrough, of being wholly in yourself, of feeling completely natural, kind of rewilding yourself in many ways. You know, the Uranus energy with the penetrative sun sort of activating it in your 7th house. It is about you finding your way to being independent, even with these people in your life, and they're almost showing you how to not give a monkey's what people think. So if you find that you've got a lot of people who are behaving in a way that is a bit alien to you, it's because they're encouraging you. They're showing you how to show up, how to be yourself, and how to lean more into your own truth. So to give you a personal example, and this is a theme that's come up for me. I've also had my Uranus opposition since Uranus has been in the sign of Taurus. That happened quite early on. I had my Uranus opposition quite a while ago, but yeah, I've had Uranus going through this part of my chart for quite some time. And in that time, I felt quite shocked many occasions by the behaviors of people that have come in. And I thought, well, I would never behave like that. I would never do that to somebody that I liked or loved. I would never do that to somebody, you know. I've had many times when I've had that thought come up, and many times when I've taken the judgments and ideas of other people really, really seriously. And it's funny, just as we were coming into this Uranus Cazimi time, in the last couple of days, I've remembered some of these moments. I've been feeling actually quite triggered by some of the reactions that I've felt from people around me. All that's really letting me know is I need to relax how I feel about myself. You know, why don't I grant myself that space to be me, to be as free as other people are, to say the things as freely as other people? You know, I mean, you don't have to like go out to destroy people or try that at all. But wouldn't it be great if you could absolutely tune into the rhythm of who you are and be able to express that without tripping over yourself for fear of offense, for fear of this, for fear of that? This is a really clarifying time for you, whereby there is a breakthrough, is what I would say. You know, because these Cazimis are happening in quick succession in your 7th house, and it's one of the angular houses: the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, the 10th. They're big houses. They are the houses that really change the direction of your life if you let them. So yeah, this is encouraging us to not take others as seriously as we have been. You know, be a bit more relaxed, be a bit more non-attached with how others are being. And that's also giving you the independence and opportunity for you to be yourself completely. Now, one of the things that is actually I can see coming up right now is a sense of separation, because the 7th house, you know, when I was looking at this before Uranus went into my 7th house quite a few years ago, I was thinking, oh, crikey, I've got Uranus going through my 7th house. That could be a breakup, but I'm in a happy relationship. You know, all of the things. Like, Uranus really does represent breakups and breakthroughs. It represents change. And some relationships are up to those changes and some aren't. You know, Uranus brings a higher level frequency, a high level consciousness. And right now he's bringing these higher level consciousnesses to your relationships. And if your relationship isn't up to it, you know, you may well feel that what you're learning from this experience is separating you from your partner, and that could create a lot of anxiety. I know it would in me, if that's how I was feeling too. So I think another thing that's worth bearing in mind with this Cazimi is it's the most current Cazimi, Uranus Cazimi, in the sign of Taurus that you've experienced so far. Each of these will have been challenging you to be your own vibration and to move away from anything that's not that vibration that you're being in. You know, Uranus is very, very vibrational, very much frequency based. So, sorry. If during this time your vibration has moved further and further and further away from how you were and other people in your life, you may have found that some people have faded away, but similarly, new people of a new vibrational field and energy have been coming in. And so it's almost like one out, one in, or one out, two in. You know, it's like for everyone that you're losing, you are gaining. Now, the thing about the new people coming in is that they are more fun. They are more exciting. They're probably a little bit more irresponsible because, or that might be how they seem, because, you know, they are going to the beat of their own drum, and you are now at the right vibration to meet these people who are a lot more expanded, a lot higher consciousness, and who will hold you to task as well, you know, because they're a lot more in their integrity, which is why you're attracting them, because you're going that way as well. So any separation anxiety you might feel right now about losing people who don't feel like a really good match anymore, I absolutely see it, and I feel for you. I really do. And I also recognize that it's almost like, as you say, this is who I am now. And as you're declaring where you are in life, it's like life is hearing you and saying, oh, okay, that's great. I know where you are now. Hang on. Right, not you. You're not the right vibration anymore. And all of a sudden the floodgates open, and then the right people start finding you. And they start coming in. And then the more you're saying, yes, these are my people, the more these people come in. Now, the other great thing about this experience, you know, this is helping you to come back to yourself. So you're coming back to life by recognizing and learning things through your relationships. That's the thing that's informing you. The more you choose to inform yourself about how unique you are, how you can be yourself, how you rewild yourself, the more you do that, the more the Jupiter Cazimi energy is going to come in and help you, because that is giving you the miracle of confidence. It's building you up. It's comforting you. It's holding your hand and taking you to the next step. So this is all really, really helpful. So if you take a step, it's almost like, I don't know if it happens around the world. I'm sure it does. But I know before I left the UK, there was a kind of matching of contributions. So if you went and bought something from a charity shop, and you're donating so much to the charity shop in exchange for, so it's not really a donation, but like anytime you're giving money, you're giving something up. The UK government, if you'd signed into this scheme, would match you either fully or with a contribution. So it's like, I think Jupiter is doing this with us right now. Every time we say, okay, this is what I'm standing for, and this is what I'm gifting myself with, it's like life is coming in, Jupiter's coming in and gifting you some more. So the more you stand in who you are, the better it gets. And it might not seem like that, as you're a bit like the tarot card, the Fool, which I think really has a combination of Uranus and Jupiter energy, by the way. But if you were to imagine the Fool, if you like tarot cards, it's about taking that next step, and it looks really scary, and there are no guarantees, and yet it could turn out to be just the best move you've ever made and the start of a new journey. So that's the blessing and the curse of these angular houses. They're taking us on a very deep journey. Now, I do want to add in these stabilizing factors. So we've got Saturn here that is supporting and stabilizing you. You know, you have a gift within your hobbies, within the things that bring you joy. So think of all the fifth house things that you've got. So you might have friends, you might have like intimacy with, sensuality, your children that are born from you, anything that you're birthing, is a support factor right now. That's why I put in hobbies, because, you know, anything that you're serious about and you love to, like anything that you're creating with joy right now and seriously creating with joy, I put serious in because Saturn is a serious planet. It's helping you. So you might find that one question you ask yourself is, am I free to express my joy within this relationship? And if I can't be my joyful self and express my joy in the way that's right for me, maybe this isn't the right relationship. And you might find that there are some Saturn types that show up that are as creative as you, that share joy in a similar way to you, that can help you. So tune into that. Neptune, also going through the 5th, has created this very abundant and possibly confusing at times way of you being creative. It's created so many different pathways to joy. And it might be quite difficult to know which one is the right one. But Neptune is also, I think, very, very spiritual. And in the sign of Pisces, I think you've got, you know, now that it's been in this part of your chart for such a long time, it's really, I think there's a purity in you being creative. So again, if you're feeling the tightness of the energy right now, and if you're feeling, oh, I don't know if I can make the next step, the next best thing you can do, in my opinion, at this time in May, is to create something, is to absolutely go deeper into your joy, almost like it's a spiritual experience. The more you can do that, the more intuitive knowing is going to come up. So this is all going to help you. The very next step, you know, Jupiter's going to go into the sign of Gemini. The sun will be there. Venus will be there. We'll have the Venus Cazimi on the 4th of June. There will also be the new moon. The new moon, you have the sun, the moon, Venus and Jupiter. Oh my goodness, what a lineup. All in your 8th house in the sign of Gemini, that's going to really speed things up and create a lot of really deep experiences. Like the 8th house is about transformation. And it's a lot lighter, a much lighter energy than the energy of Taurus. So although all these planets come into the 8th house, which can be quite a somber house, for you in the sign of Gemini, there's a lot of learning there. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of curiosity. It's definitely the start of something new for you. So I hope that's been helpful in navigating the Cazimi energies and how they might play out. There is definitely a gift in the movements that are coming into the sign of Gemini, and I will be exploring that later on in another video. In particular, the Jupiter and Gemini video I think will be quite helpful to you. But anyway, lots and lots of love to you. If you think you want to deep dive with me on a personal basis, if you look underneath in the description, you'll find ways of contacting me and a way of putting yourself in my diary and inviting me to work with you. So anyway, lots of love to you. Take care and speak to you real soon. Bye for now. Okay, so on to Sagittarius ascendant or rising sign. So Sagittarians, this is you that I'm talking to right now. This is the Cazimi special on the Uranus Cazimi here at 23 degrees in the sign of Taurus, and then the Jupiter Cazimi at 28 degrees in the sign of Taurus, which, using a whole sign charting system, Western tropical, this has both of these Cazimis happening in your 6th house. Now, you've had Uranus go through your 6th house for quite some time. In truth, it's probably changed a lot of the way you've organized your life. It most probably has seemed to be that you know, your life has had quite a lot of chaos, a lot of changes, deep disruptions, and things like that in recent years. Now, over the last 3 or 4 years, when we've had the Uranus Cazimi, i.e. Uranus and the sun get together, they've been activating a level of change within your 6th house of experience. So, for instance, you've been really challenged to be a lot more authentic to yourself and to have your whole life reflect your new, more authentic self every single time. So it's like at the moment, this late April, early May time represents this feeling of, oh, change is coming. It's almost like you could set your clock to it. You know, it's a very sort of strong deeply changing, possibly shocking time, whereby it just feels like everything needs to be picked up, shaked up, and reawakened. A bit like, how most people do a spring clean, and some people do it many times a year. They get this need to create a new order. Now, it's funny, it's talking about creating a new order when we're talking about Uranus Cazimi, because Uranus isn't really known for orderliness. Uranus is more known for creating disorder. Uranus breaks apart the stability that might have become too rigid, and Uranus really kind of breaks everything down so that you've got space within the cracks to breathe again. So, what I really see has been going on for you as almost like a yearly routine, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, is that around this time of year, you've been making changes that have been instrumental in creating a sense of space for yourself. So you can space right out in your life, so that you can feel there's more room. So you've been needing to navigate more room into your routine. So let's go through what the 6th house is about. The 6th house is very much about your day-to-day running of your life. It definitely includes health in there. Health is absolutely important to consider. So having Uranus going through here might have shown up as a surprising need to check your energy levels out. Uranus can create chaos, like I said. So, you may well have found that your health and your energy levels have been quite chaotic. It's been very difficult to keep a routine. Routines absolutely fit into the 6th house. The 6th house is about how you can regulate yourself. And it's, I always think the 6th and the 12th polarity, the 6th is the physical, organized side of your life where you are manifesting ever more strongly into the world. And then the 12th house is as you're demanifesting, you're dematerializing. The material is breaking down, and the spiritual self, everything that holds your spirit together, all of that is kind of breaking down. And, as it all dissolves, you become one with all that is. I really see that the 1st house is all about being born. And then this is all about dying and leaving our mortal realm. So, yeah, the 6th house is like one of the most organized places you can find. And having Uranus, the instigator of the most amount of chaos, this will have been quite challenging for you, even with your Sagittarian ascendant that tends to be quite laissez-faire and quite relaxed about things. So, yeah, challenges for sure. Now, you might just find this Uranus Cazimi that's happening today on the 13th of May is actually here to create a new sense of who you are, a new structure. It's time to break down what you've created from the last year and think, okay, what is actually feeling good? What's not feeling good? What's feeling restrictive? Get rid of it. Everything that feels like you are free, keep it. Everything that you feel is free but could be more free, adapt it. So it's like you're going through your life right now. And actually, beyond the Cazimi, leading up to the Jupiter Cazimi on the 18th, I would carry on. If I was in your shoes, I would carry on going through my life and thinking, okay, that habit that I created last year, am I liberated or not? No, okay, ditch that. And so on and so forth. Really keep doing it. It's almost like you're doing a life spring clean. And it will be as disruptive as it can be. Like the more open you are to change and the more curious you are to finding new solutions for finding greater levels of freedom and independence in your life. So the more open you are to change, the less chaotic it will be. But the more you're rigidly trying to hold on to your life exactly as it is, the more difficult it will be. So it's worth bearing that in mind, because I often find these outer planets kind of kick our ass a little bit, because, they really are... They do bring a challenging presence. They're not forcing us to do anything, but I always think if you go with the energies that are presenting themselves, life goes so much more smoothly. So yeah, Uranus is here. Now, it doesn't sound very inspiring, does it? Like it's your habitual life, your routines, your health, and how you manage everything. And also your money as well. Like, how are you handling your money? Is everything in order right now? And the chances are it hasn't been in order because Uranus has been making it a bit crazy. But, Uranus has been here for about 4, 5, 6 years now. He's moving into the sign of Gemini, not this year, but he will be moving there soon. So Uranus has already done quite a lot to disrupt everything that was a bit too stable, a little bit too difficult. And he's breathed new life into your routines, and he's helped you come into a much more authentic alignment to who you are. So it's all great, actually. And then in this last year, when, Jupiter came into the sign of Taurus, Jupiter's magnified it. So you might have found that you're able to clear even more old habits much more quickly, make them much bigger. If anything, I think it's probably given you quite a good mindset, because it's allowed you to see just how free and liberated you can be. So even if you are maybe, one of the earth signs that probably wants a bit more stability, you may well have found yourself a good way of thinking about it, with a series of questions, yes, no answers. And then Jupiter comes in, speeds it up. So it almost becomes like a life-changing shorthand. You know how there's all these people out there now that do these life hack channels? So, there's people that try things out for 30 days and then they report on it on their channels on YouTube. I watch loads of them, I have to say. I'm not so good at practicing them, but, what you've essentially been going through very recently is you've been life hacking your own life. And you are in the end stages of this. There will be one more Uranus Cazimi coming up next year in the sign of Taurus, but thereafter it goes into Gemini. So, if you do want to life hack, go bigger, go bolder. And, then as you do your last one next year, wow, you can really leave a whole load of old ways of thinking behind. And take it into the new realm of the 7th house. Now, it's just got me thinking, in talking about activating the Uranus energy in your chart, I really think that when you start working on it, even if it's in your 6th house, which is looking at what's working, what's not, how is your organization of your life, your house, your health, and this, that, and the other, I think the moment you start working with it in one house, it automatically starts playing out in your other houses. So for instance, if you're life hacking and shorthanding your sort of physical manifested world, you will no doubt be bringing in more exciting people into your life, which is really what happens when Uranus moves into the 7th house. And you will most likely be working in a more new, inspired way. So, in many respects, it's never too late to start working with your Uranus energy. Even if you don't start working with it in the 6th house, go into the 7th house, you could do it there, but much safer to do it in this part of your chart, because what you're doing is making sure you are not asleep on your job. You're not asleep in the life that is yours. You are wide awake and you're ready to take on new opportunities because you've created more active space for yourself. So I think this is really good. Now, anything that you're creating for yourself right now, 5 days later, when the Jupiter Cazimi comes along, you're feeling confident about it. So Jupiter Cazimi is there to help you feel there's more trust and faith in what you're doing, that you can be really confident. It really helps you have a deep belief in what you can turn around, what you can achieve. And just actually how okay it can feel to be organized. I mean, again, Sagittarian ascendant, Sagittarian rising, it's probably not one of those signs that, and I'm a sun sign, Sagittarius, it's not a sign that is particularly wanting to be organized per se, but we do want to do a lot. There is this natural curiosity and optimism for life. So the chances are you've got loads of things that you'd love to achieve. By getting this part of your world organized, the opportunity is you get to be more of who you are. This is just taken care of. So, yeah, I think this is actually quite a helpful aspect for you. Now, there are some supporting measures down here. So let me just address these. So Saturn and Neptune are actually located in a very helpful part of the Cazimi charts to show that they've got something to add into the mix. So Saturn, first of all, he's going through your 4th house. That's not necessarily a comfortable place for Saturn to go through. When Saturn goes through your 4th house, a lot of your resources feel a bit tighter because, Saturn in the 4th is very much about your actual security and the beliefs and behaviors that you have towards your security. And if you've got a family and a home and the quality of how you're living, it almost feels tighter when Saturn is there. What Saturn is doing, really, it doesn't really feel much like a support, but trust me, Saturn in the 4th is making things so much more of an imperative to resolve. So a Saturn is in the 4th, and he's been there for over a year now. He is bringing up all of those things that maybe you've let go by the wayside. So if there was, I don't know, a direct debit or payment that you've been releasing and you hadn't missed it and you hadn't realized that you were paying it, well, wouldn't that be nice if that was the situation? But, you may well find that there's things where you're wasting your money or you're wasting your time. So Saturn here is actually showing you where your efforts are completely wasted, which obviously erodes at your security. So Saturn is showing you that really, really amply. He's also showing you, because the 4th house is also where we can find peace and security. It doesn't have to be a disaster zone. And, I know a lot of people that do listen to astrology, it often comes out of a sense of us being a bit lost in the first place. I'd love to do a quick poll as to why people get into astrology in the first place, either as a hobby or as a profession. I'm pretty sure most people start learning it because they don't feel like they understand how life works, and they're looking for greater clarity at a time when life just seems a bit chaotic. So, the 4th house comes up quite regularly when people are talking about their charts as if it's, a terrible place, because when you've got something bad going through it or difficult going through it, it really impacts you. However, Saturn, if you can come through the other side of the Saturn lessons, Saturn is also teaching you to be peaceful at home with what you've got, which doesn't sound like such a blessing. However, it really is. It's kind of minimalism. It could be completely minimalizing your life, simplifying it completely, where you get rid of your belongings, you completely declutter, or you learn to live on, $50 every, I don't know, 5 days or something. Like, you challenge yourself. And again, it doesn't sound that great. However, you might actually come to appreciate some of your newer habits, whereby you come to appreciate that less is sometimes more. So there's also that playing into this. So Saturn is giving you a modicum of balance and proportion that is really actually quite helpful in refining your life. So quite a good lesson, actually. Now, Neptune has been going through here as well, which is kind of tiresome, actually. It can give us a sense of not knowing where we belong. And so Neptune has been here for 12 years. It's going to be here for another 9 months or so. And then he starts to go into Aries. And that's going to be a whole nother subject for sure. But, as Neptune's been going through here, probably we felt for many years that we just don't belong in our life, or, where do I belong? Do I feel a sense of belonging to my house? Not really. It's a kind of weird sense, almost like you're having an out of body experience, like you're not very embodied at home. And what I think Neptune's gift here is that we learn that the only home we've got is actually our body. And that we might come even closer to the nature of spiritual reality. We might get a sense of being peaceful in ourselves, developing that sense of belonging in ourselves. And so I think as Neptune is coming to the end of his time here, the only real sense of our belonging is to us. And actually, again, that's very, very helpful when we think that, Uranus is or has been setting up our life and making quite a lot of chaos for us. And we've had the chance to deconstruct our life and rebuild it in the way that works for us. Of course, if you're able to tune in to the spirituality of yourself, that just gets that bit easier. So yeah, these two Cazimis working together, they are helping you come back to your unique self and then fostering that deep sense of hope and trust in your abilities and growing confidence. Now, the next Cazimi is Venus on the 4th of June. Before that, the Sun and Venus and Jupiter are all heading into Gemini. That is really where the Midas touch is. You know, this is where the goodness is going to start to be expressed a lot more and felt. You know, so whatever you're doing with these Cazimis is going to be really felt in this area as Jupiter changes signs. And this is the 7th house. This is the bit that shows you what you're doing it for, really. You know, as you've streamlined your life and got really clear about your visions and values, which very much fit into the 4th house, which is where our behaviors and our security is. You know, you've created space, lots of space to be yourself. You've given yourself permission to absolutely organize your life exactly as you want it. And then as Jupiter moves into the 7th house, you've actually got space for other people. You know, can you imagine if you met somebody, especially if you're single and you're wanting to meet somebody right now? Could you imagine what it'd be like if you meet somebody, you're both adults, you're meeting each other, and then thinking how you can fit your lives into each other's lives? You know, it's like when two single people that have just been in a relationship move in, and then all of their stuff comes with them. And then there's this kind of awkward moment as to how everything all fits in together. Where you've simplified your life, you've created more space for people, more space for the things that actually count. And this is really opening up a much more beautiful, positive and optimistic and nurturing and a feeling of well-being around the people in your life. So the more you're clearing these out, I would say the greater the caliber of people you're going to be meeting and experiencing in life. And if you are in an existing relationship, I think the more you do this, the better your existing relationships are getting. So there you go, Sagittarius ascendant. I hope that's helpful for you in navigating these Cazimis. If you would like to deeper dive with me in person, then or even remotely, if you look into the description underneath this video, you'll see that there's lots of different links. And seriously, just have a think. And if you want to work with me, invite me to work with you. So all you have to do is just click on a link, book into my diary, and there it is. Anyway, however this has landed with you, I wish you a great period of this insightful breakthrough energy, and I look forward to connecting with you again real soon. Lots of love. Bye for now. So on to Capricorn ascendant. Capricorn ascendant, then this one's for you. The Uranus Cazimi is happening today on the 13th of May. I'm recording it right in the middle of the Cazimi. And the Jupiter Cazimi is on the 18th, 5 days later. They are both showing up in your 5th house if we're considering your chart from the perspective of a whole sign, Western tropical astrology setup. So the 5th house is where it's all being activated. I have to say, for you Capricorn ascendants or rising signs, there couldn't really be a better sign for these to be going off in right now, you know, because the 5th house is all about your creativity and how you're finding greater joy for yourself. You know, the 5th house is a point of, I think, just naturally expressing yourself and coming into who you're meant to be. I find the 5th house actually a place of relaxation, a place of kind of coming out of the confines of your home. If you think about it, the astrological journey, the 4th house comes before, and that is about your security and your stability. And once you've got your security and stability kind of set up, then you start to personally express yourself. So the 5th house is like you're opening the doors of your house, you're opening the windows, you're bashing out a wall, you're creating more space for yourself. And so you've had Uranus, you know, the planet of change and chaos and disruption and downloads and consciousness and freedom and independence and all that stuff. Exciting. You know, Uranus is there to create something new for you. And in the Cazimi, when it's the Sun and the Uranus come together at that exact sweet spot of the moment they are exactly together at 23 degrees in the sign of Taurus, it is starting a new cycle of independence and freedom. It's asking you, where do you want to find freedom? Where do you want to be free? Where do you Where do you want more space for yourself? And so, this isn't the first Uranus Cazimi in Taurus that you've had. Like the last 3 or 4 have all been in the sign of Taurus, because Uranus has been going through this sign for quite some time. So you've already got into the habit of challenging yourself around this time of year to feel a greater sense of breakthrough, a greater sense of independence. It's like you're in this place of discovery. This is the miracle of you being you. This is a journey of wholeness, taking you back to, I don't know, you're kind of rewilding yourself. You're taking off all of the clothes that you've put on, all these hats that you've been wearing of who you're meant to be, all these expectations and stuff, and you're flinging them off far and wide. And the Uranus energy is just there to absolutely show you who you are. So I love this. If I was in your shoes right now, Uranus ascendant or rising sign, I would say be as creative as you want right now, and be ready for a really big breakthrough, massive breakthrough. Now, if you are a Capricorn ascendant that's got children, you might find that your children have been a real pain in the butt in recent times, or have been quite disruptive, because again, Uranus brings us disruption and change. And that disruption, really all that's showing you is where things are too tight and too constricted. And so, anything that's ruled by the 5th, which includes your children and your romantic partner, in the early days, the sensuality side of it. So if your sensuality has been a bit rigid, that has probably been shaken up. If your children are managed in too rigid a way, or if they're wanting you to be very rigid, then Uranus will have been shaking up your relationships there. So that could also maybe do with a bit of a sprucing up. You might find that Uranus energy is really a message to you that it's okay to give your kids a bit more freedom. It's okay to see how independent they are and see what they do with their independence. And, if you're giving them independence, then it's time for you to be more independent. So it all kind of figures out that way. Now, how you are creating more naturalness and uncovering the kind of real spirit of who you are. 5 days later, the Jupiter Cazimi comes in, and that is really reminding you that you can do it. It's reminding you that it doesn't matter how high you set your goals for, whatever you're reaching for right now, it is absolutely achievable. It's completely possible. And you've got the faith. You're getting that confident belief in yourself. Now, if you've been using these Cazimis, if you've been using the springtime to create more creative projects, maybe you've been delivering and sort of developing a project maybe to take to business, maybe you work within your passion, and isn't that a wonderful thing if you can do that? Jupiter here is giving you the confidence. It's now saying it's time. It is time to do this. It's like, come on then, let's put yourself out there, baby. Let's get moving. Let's get your passion business out there. So, Jupiter is there to take that to market. Quite exciting. Now there are some other support measures that are quite helpful with these Cazimis. So Saturn, who can be a bit of a big bully boy of the solar system. Saturn, is showing you like his position in the 3rd house in the area of your neighborhood, and, within the sort of context that, like the narrative you're raised in, maybe, it's like there are people maybe from your past, peers, neighbors, siblings, cousins, who may well be able to support and encourage you, so you might find, even though you're being your funky self and creating lots of great stuff for you, and you might seem a bit chaotic and a little bit different to how they remember you, you might find that the people from your earlier life are actually really proud of you and really wanting, they're almost like your little cheerleaders. So don't be so dismissive of them. If they're wanting to offer you a little bit of help and support, just let them know how you want to receive that help and support, and then the ball's back in their court. But what I would really urge you not to do is just to kind of kick them to the side. I mean, Saturn's your ruling planet, and if there are some Saturnian types of people, maybe elders, people that have already gone and set up their business that you might be aspiring to, people that have faced the challenges that you've yet to face or are facing right now, and they live within your neighborhood, let them in. Don't keep them on the outside. I know you guys are independent and everything. I was almost married to a Capricorn. That's my big secret. But anyway, it's not a secret anymore. But anyway, yeah, these Saturn types are there to help you. Yeah, absolutely there to so take their help when they offer it to you. The Neptune energy that's been going through your third house, that's an interesting one, because what you might also have learned is that there's a lot of things going on in your community and within your peer group that you're not quite aware of. That's one of the biggest learnings, actually, I would say, in recent times to do with Neptune, is that, you know, what you think you know about your environment and how everything fits together and stuff is really not what's there. There's just so much more. You almost could dive into your community and be learning about it for the rest of your life. There's always going to be these little nooks and crannies where there are people in vibrational alignment to you, people that aren't. And if you blanket sort of judge everyone as, oh God, it's just where I grew up, everything's so mundane there, you're really missing a trick. These areas are there to support you in your next step. So again, you know, follow your intuition. If you get this intuition to go into your local community, and you get the sort of intuition to pop into a cafe or a library or whatever, follow your intuition. There are clues to connect you up to the right people. Now, the last thing I want to share with you is these great new opening energies are really here to move you to the next step, because, you know, Jupiter's going to be moving into Gemini soon. The Sun's going into Gemini. Venus is heading into Gemini. The next Cazimi after this is the Venus Cazimi. And there's a lovely new moon in Gemini in a conjunction with Venus and Jupiter. So there's Venus and Jupiter are the two benefics, the sun and the moon. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of great energy going into Gemini. This is where life seems to be kind of just moving you along to. And that's the next step in your gift. So what I'm seeing here is the energy is shifting you to uplift your whole life, you know, and it's coming from this sense of creativity. So the more you invest in being yourself, following your joy, independently choosing to do the things you want to do and feeling positive about it, the more it is leading you into a fuller, more exciting life, one with a greater sense of well-being. So just to, if I was to summarize in a different way to make it really, really straightforward, what I would say is if you don't follow your joy in the next 20 days or so, you may well be missing a massive trick, because if you're like sticking to what you know and what you've confined yourself to, and you don't use this amazing Uranus Cazimi, Jupiter Cazimi energy, then as the focus goes into Gemini, what's going to happen is you're just going to look at your normal life and feel a sense of well-being, but not fully evolve it, not fully change it. You're not going to be fully aware of the scope that can grow from your creativity. Whereas if in the next 20 days or so, you really allow all your creative thoughts to come up, really focus on what you feel really joyful about, and develop it, and feel that sense of growing confidence. It's that sense of growing confidence that is going to lead you to a much more fulfilling life. So what I'm talking about here, Capricorn, and you guys are very good at organizing your life and being very competent, but what I'm talking about here is not necessarily making more money or making efficiencies of time or anything like that. What I'm talking about here is creating a richer life for yourself. And that is a really big distinction. So there you go. That's my forecast for you. This is, like I said, about going into a deeper version of you, rewilding yourself, feeling a greater miracle of being you. And yes, it's about creating more richness. Anyway, if you would like to work with me on a more personal basis, all you need to do is just check out the links below in the description field, and invite me to work with you. As simple as that. So anyway, lots of love to you. Hope to catch you another time. Enjoy this, and I look forward to hearing all about your riches that come in. Bye for now. So on to Aquarius. So Aquarius, this Cazimi that's happening today is really for you. You know, Uranus is one of your ruling planets. And yeah, I mean, this is big energy. So let's talk about this energy. So the Uranus Cazimi is happening at 23 degrees in the sign of Taurus in your 4th house. 5 days later, we've got the Jupiter Cazimi. Now, the 4th house is an interesting one. It's where we get our security from. It's where we have our behaviors that help us feel secure. We learn a lot of instinctive behaviors from our parents early on. It represents our home, our family, and that sense of warmth. You know, do we feel like we belong? It's also a very private place. It's a place where maybe it's almost like your cave where you can be safe. And sure, you can invite people in and stuff, but it's where you get that sense of safety. And Uranus, I have to say, is not a planet of safety. Not at all. Uranus is, unless for you being safe is being true, in which case it's the safest place you can expect. But, you know, Uranus is known for change, for shock, for surprise. You know, Uranus gives us a breakthrough. It's quite wild, but it's deeply truthful and authentic energy. You know, Uranus is helping us remember who we really are. It's encouraging us to go even deeper, to recognize where we're lying to ourselves and being a little bit like a stick in the mud. So Uranus is here to enliven you. That's why I've said it's coming back to your unique self. So, and if you do want to know more about the actual programming behind the Cazimi today and Jupiter Cazimi and all the other planetary alignments, then do go and check out part 1, which I released yesterday on the 12th of May. But in terms of this Uranus Cazimi and the Jupiter Cazimi, yeah, these energies are enlivening you at home, enlivening your sense of belonging. So if you're not feeling that you already belong in your life or you don't belong in your home, then this could be really, really helpful for you. Now, the first thing it's going to do, because, you know, Uranus Cazimi has happened in this part of your chart a few times before. Each time around this time of year, the Sun and Uranus come together and there is this sense, it's almost like an alarm goes off, an internal yearly alarm where you're like, oh, time for that spring clean. And you kind of wake up and then start to consider why it is that you maybe feel a bit tight. What you might find is where you've tried to create the security around you, that you've created it a little bit too tightly. And actually, what you really want is that sense of belonging or that sense of peace or that sense of truth in yourself, in your own heart. And one of the sad factors of our homes is, you know, for many of us, we believe our home is our sanctuary. And yes, it is. It's our physical sanctuary. And yet, you know, and you're quite idealistic as well. Like Aquarians tend to be very idealistic, and Uranus is all very much about ideals. You might well realize that you can create the best home that you can. And yet the ideal of it is you probably know that you don't belong in your home. Like a snail has his shell, a crab has his shell around him as well. You know, there are natural homes, and then we've got these homes that don't necessarily reflect the true nature of who we are. They just reflect where we live, according to what we've been told, according to what's affordable, according to what's available. And so you might find that what's going on right now for you is you're thinking, how can I live more in accordance to my true rhythm, my true nature inside my own house? How can I do that? How can I make that work for me? You might find that, you know, the lounge, which for most people is a comfortable place with sofas and a telly and loads of throw cushions and rugs and plants and stuff like that. You might actually find that you want that to just be a massive social space with tables, good lighting to work on, and a sense of lightness and air, not necessarily comfort, but a sense of chatter, a sense of interest, a sense of curiosity. You might find that your kitchen that, you know, is designed in a particular way actually would be better if you had like a kitchen at this height for you, a smaller kitchen at a lower height for a child or an elderly parent or something, so that you can cook side by side. You know, what this is really showing you, I think, is the way you're living is maybe not fit for who you really are. And you might not need to move, but you might need to make some adaptations. And maybe you've already been doing this. And next year is the last Uranus Cazimi in this area. So if you are wanting to make lifestyle changes, you know, you are really coming into a finalization. Now, I don't want to say it's final. If you don't change now, you never will, because that's not my belief system at all. I believe we're always changing, but Uranus won't be coming back to this part in your chart for another 84 years. So, you know, however, Uranus will be inspiring change in loads of different parts of your life. So it's not a done deal, but it's quite helpful energy. It's also letting go of anything about yourself in terms of your inner programming that you don't believe about yourself, that's not really running correctly. So for instance, you might have a lot of belief systems that really have originated from your childhood that really need to just be let go of. You know, when you review them, do they feel authentic to you? If they don't, let them go. Now, the great thing about this kind of letting go and this spring cleaning and this really digging into, does this feel like me? Is this me or not? You might say, whose house is this anyway? Whose expectations does this house, who lives in this house? You might choose to do that. You might, like, if you could step outside of your house, come back into your house and then say, okay, let's imagine who lives here. Does it actually really reflect you? And if not, why not? So all good things to think about. Now, on the 18th, 5 days later, Jupiter Cazimi is coming in, and it's just saying, look, doesn't matter how far you've got, you do belong. Jupiter is here to give you a cycle of well-being. You know, the Sun and Jupiter come together. There's a new sense of well-being, a new sense of belief and confidence in who you are, that even if you haven't got the right answer just yet, you will soon. You can do it. So there is this lovely feeling that you can grow confidence in yourself and develop hope, which I think is actually probably more beneficial than the Uranus Cazimi, because it's almost like you can apply it. It feels relatable, really, really relatable, that you can start to believe in your abilities. So the two of these coming off in your fourth house is, I think, really quite helpful. Now, you've also got Saturn and Neptune helping you out. I'm going to come to Neptune first. Intuitive knowing. Yeah, we get to intuitive knowing when we've, I think, got a real grip on what Neptune represents, because Neptune also creates a bit of a mind fog and an uncertainty about our status in life. Neptune can create these changes that we're not quite sure how they happened. We can't quite put our finger on something because Neptune's quite nebulous. And so, yeah, one of the themes about having Neptune having gone through your second house, and Neptune's coming into your third soon, as of 2025, but Neptune is still sort of like dancing in this second house. But it's been here a long time. It's been there for 12 years. It's coming to its end. So Neptune has been teaching you that if you're basing your value on how much money you earn, you'll never be happy. It's been disabusing you of the idea of, I am what I earn, or I'm more effective because I'm earning this. You might actually find you were happier in yourself and had a greater sense of self-value when you were actually earning less. When I think back to my best jobs, I mean, I love what I do, totally love what I do right now. But one of the best jobs I ever had was when I was 18, and I just buggered off and lived in France, and I lived in a tent for 6 months. And I was working as a tourism rep, you know, so I was cleaning tents in the sunshine, welcoming holidaymakers. That felt really rich. Didn't earn much, but you know, I was in the fresh air, I was sleeping outside in a tent. Oh, it was just bliss. I didn't have loads of complications. I didn't have lots of expectations put on me. I felt so free and unfettered. What a sense of freedom that really was. And so that's kind of a Neptune second house energy, I would say. You know, it's less about the money, but more about the peace. You know, how much can you feel at peace that you are intrinsically valuable? And that's what you've been learning. So here, you know, Neptune has been working his magic on you. He's been reminding you that you're a spiritual being, not just a material one. You know, you're really here to trust in who you are, and trust that you being here was the right thing. And maybe he's been encouraging you to be a lot more creative in the way that you earn your money. So this, in many respects, has helped to loosen you up in terms of what you might need to feel at home, because, if you had something very rational going through here, and actually Saturn is quite rational, it's very rational, but like if you've gone through, if you've got a lot of second house stuff and going on in your chart, and you're quite forward thinking in terms of money and stuff, you might not be so free in how you're living. You might have these very strong ideas as to what your home and sense of belonging need to encompass, but really Neptune here is giving you a sort of creative look. So I guess what I would say is what feels right. If you can tune into what feels right for you, it's going to be easier. Now, Saturn has been in this part of your chart for a while. No doubt he's reduced the amount of earnings or tightened where your money goes a little bit. And that's actually quite helpful too, because, he's reminding you that some of the things you think you need, you really don't, so there's a sense of proportion that's come in via Saturn's energy. You might also find that you have some Saturnian people around you, i.e. parents, grandparents, coaches, bosses, people who have authority over you. But you might have some good coaches around you that might even lend you money or, help you with your finances so that you can make changes. But anyway, where is this all leading? That's the most important question. And what I would say is where this is leading you is into more joy. So if you can see these Cazimis as the more I become myself, the more wild I become, the more I realize I need to live according to my own rhythm, in my own home, in my own way, not necessarily in a 3-piece suite, telly and throw cushions. It might not be what you're about. It might be, it might not. But the more you live according to who you are and what's right for you, the more you're coming into a stage of utter creativity and the joy of being yourself. It's almost like it's freeing you to be more open so that you can create more. And Jupiter on the 25th, in 12 days' time, is going into Gemini, and that is going to be encouraging you to birth yourself over and over and over and over again. And if you are single, it could also be bringing in a new sensuous partner into your life, which could be quite good fun. Venus is also coming into this area, as is the sun, as is, the next new moon. It's the new moon. So it's the moon, the sun, Venus and Jupiter. Really good if you're single, or really good because it could be strengthening your existing intimacy. So yeah, these things are moving you on in a really nice way. So pay attention to where you might not need as much, and pay attention to, your spiritual needs a little bit more. And these Cazimis will set you up really beautifully to feel free as you're bringing in the intimacy and the richness that you're seeking. So there you go, Aquarius Ascendant. I hope that's useful to you. If you would like to have a deep dive with me, then all of my details are underneath in the description. Literally, if you want to work with me, just simply book some time in my diary and invite me to work with you. That's all you need to do. So anyway, lots and lots of love to you, and catch you in another video real soon. Bye for now. So Pisces, this is a big one, Pisces. Jupiter's one of your rulers, and then Neptune is one of, Neptune I've put as a supporting act in this month ahead, and Neptune is in quite a strong place. So your two rulers are in a really strong place for you right now. This is good. So in this forecast, I'm going to talk to you about how the Uranus Cazimi is leading into the Jupiter Cazimi, which is later leading into the Venus Cazimi. And they're like stepping stones. What are they leading towards? Now, I alluded to a lot of this in the May update, so please forgive me where I'm repeating myself, but I think there's some interesting things to focus on. So the Cazimis themselves is when, Uranus and the sun come together, and the sun is absolutely shining like this real sort of focal, egoic personality. This is my identity light into Uranus. And so it starts this new cycle of how can I be more independent? How can I have more breakthroughs? How can I be more me and be aware of the miracle of being me? How can I feel more naturally like myself? How can I rewild myself? How can I discover myself? How can I uncover the beauty of being me? Loads of big questions like that. So that's a huge thing that, you know, that this Cazimi is representing. The Jupiter Cazimi, you've got the sun illuminating Jupiter, setting off a new cycle of faith in yourself. So, you know, it's a new cycle of growing in confidence, feeling optimistic, expanding in the way that feels right for you, and absolutely growing in faith, growing in belief, growing in that sense of well-being that Jupiter offers. So you've got these two steps, and Uranus is actually happening today on the 13th of May. Really, I think the more you can get excited about the independence and freeing yourself up within your community, I say that because it's in the third house, the more you can become aware of the miracle of being you right now, the more in 5 days' time at the Jupiter Cazimi that you can get excited and grow in confidence. It's like you are like destined to grow in confidence. Like these Jupiter Cazimi cycles remind us of all the good things that we are able to achieve. However, if you've also challenged yourself to become more independent, or if you thought, hang on, I'm much happier when I'm a bit freer, or I'm much happier when I'm a lot more in alignment with who I am. If you've already done a bit of that Uranus Cazimi work today, then by the time the Jupiter Cazimi comes in, you've got something to build your confidence on. So what I really see is happening right now is we're coming into this moment of feeling, you know what, this is who I was last year. Who I am now is so different, you know, and this is in your third house. So it's about your community, how you belong in your community, how you communicate with others, your friends, your peers, your siblings, your cousins, what you know. So where you are right now, you might think, yeah, you know what, I've grown beyond that. I'm ready to expand even more in my community. I'm ready to be a bit more unconventional or a bit different in my community. I'm ready to let go of some of my normalcy. I'm ready to be a little bit more odd and embrace it. I'm sure there's other odd people out there just like me. You know, the more you're open and curious about what it is to be wildly yourself, the more you are likely to feel confident in yourself. It's almost like if you're not being yourself, then the Jupiter Cazimi is, it's almost like you're pouring that energy just down the drain. You know, so yeah, what I see from this is that, you know, this is helping you to show up more in your local community. And you might also want to put your worldwide community if you have a community or a part of a community online, you know, and if you're at school or college, or if you're learning something, you are showing up more authentically in that part of your life too. So this is very social. And you might find that this Cazimi energy is bringing in different people into your world through the medium of your community. So maybe just being a different vibration to what you normally represent is alerting other people more like you within your community to find you out. So I do think that this Cazimi, every time it happens, and you know, it's been in Taurus for quite a while. You've had at least 3 of them. These Taurian Uranus Cazimis are bringing more and more people that are more like you more into your world right now, so that you can absolutely discover more about yourself and discover more about the world at large. You know, it's almost like we go together further, you know. So if you want to go somewhere fast, go alone. But if you want to go really far, you do it with the people around you. And so these Cazimis are bringing you so much more truth about yourself that other people are joining you and wanting to create with you. So really good fun, really, really good fun. There are some support measures in place. So we've got Saturn. Sorry, my mic is a little bit, can't quite get it feeling just like it's in the right place. I'm a bit wriggly now. I've been sat here for a few hours doing this. I'm sure you can imagine why I'm wanting to roll my shoulders a little bit. So we've got Saturn, who's supporting and stabilizing your personality right now. And you've got Neptune, that's also making you very much full of intuitive knowing. These are actually quite a good combination in your first house. Like the intuitive knowing on its own can get a little bit lost. I mean, Neptune is one of your ruling planets, but Neptune's a bit foggy. It's unboundaried. You know, yes, it's got this idea of higher love and spirituality and deep connections, but because it's so unboundaried, it's very difficult to grasp. So you might feel it, but you almost got nowhere to land that energy. And then Saturn, if it was going through your first house on its own, you know, can be a bit dour. You know, Saturn can be a bit like, oh, you know, pessimistic. It can sometimes sap our energy in our persona. It can sap our energy. But Saturn and Neptune working together, I think, is actually quite useful because it's giving you discernment and also a sense of intuitive knowing. And so you are actually your best resource right now. So what you might choose to do in how do you awaken your life within your community? How do you become a little bit more like who you really are? Actually, you just need to ask yourself. And like, you're the only one that I've advised do that, in fact, because, you know, as I've looked in Saturn through all these different signs, you know, I've seen Saturn has represented someone close to you, someone in your job, someone, you know, that you have a relationship with, someone, you know, like lots of different positions. But I recognize that Saturn and Neptune are both you right now. They are aspects of your personality that have been developing for a while. So, you know, Saturn has been here for a year, and now he's very, very close to Neptune. There's a lot more support to be creative and intuitive. It's like your intuition has now got wings. You know, it can fly now. It's got wings. It's got some structure. It can see where it's going. It can maneuver. It can also land. And Saturn is actually helping your intuition to land as well. And yet Neptune is really helping the Saturn experience to be fully recognized. So, yeah, I think the more you are right, here's where I think this will be most useful. Okay, if I was in your shoes right now and I was wanting to expand within my local community and wanting to be myself more in my local community, maybe I remember years ago outing myself as an astrologer. You know, for a long time it had been my passion. I'd studied it. I'd then spent like 20-30 years reading and kind of studying, you know, in private and doing readings for free and stuff like that. But there was a point where I outed myself in my local community and said, oh, this is what I do. And yeah, it was quite difficult to out myself as being a little bit different or a little bit unusual or doing something that not everyone likes or believes in or trusts in. I felt quite anxious about it, actually, to tell you the truth. Anytime you're outing yourself and getting more clear about who you are, you're running the risk of alienating yourself from your natural environment. And the third house is very much your peers who you grow up with. It's definitely, the third house is definitely a place where bullying can take place, especially like school bullying. So if you've got any of that in your childhood, which I'm guessing most people that watch this channel probably do, because it's almost like the bullying is the thing that gets people thinking, oh, I wonder who I am. I wonder how I can learn about my possibilities. And I wonder how I can learn to deal with different people. That's how a lot of people find these healing modalities. So anywhere where you're not being yourself and you're choosing right now with this Cazimi to be more yourself and having the trust to be yourself, you are still running the risk of finding yourself just slightly out in the cold, just slightly as an onlooker, you know, or a way shower. You kind of step out of the community a little bit and you're on the outside looking in. You know, it almost feels like you can't quite be in the cut and thrust of it. What I would say in any of those decisions right now, you can support yourself. You want to ask your intuition, your intuitive self, what can you tell me right now that I need to know that I don't yet know? And just ask yourself it and don't answer it. Just see what comes up, see what comes back to you, see what little clues you get from the universe, like, you know, what is happening around you. And then ask yourself, if I was my most rational self, or if I was my most supportive parent or my most beloved grandparent, what advice would they give me about being myself within the local community? Because that's the other thing, you know, like these elders, whether we were born to them or whether they've come into our life separately. Anyone that's older than you and wiser than you, and hopefully they are, they have lived long enough to see that all of these little things that we go through, they pass. So they've got the perspective of time. And so if I was in your shoes right now, wanting to be more of your actual self in your community, in the way that you really feel yourself to be, I would ask that side of you, the elder side of you and the intuitive side of you, what can you tell me right now to help me be myself fully? Now, the great thing about being yourself fully is where all this is leading to. Jupiter's going to go into Gemini soon, and I'll be doing a separate video about that. We've got the new moon in Gemini in June. I'll be doing a video about that. Venus Cazimi will be coming up. I'll probably be doing a video about that as well. But the energy is moving you into the fourth house, where you find stability, where you find more strength, where you feel that sense of belonging, where you find your home. So, Jupiter coming into this area of your chart often changes our home, makes it bigger, invites more people in, or it changes the energy. So what better preparation could you have for finding the right home for you than finding out who you are within your local community and starting to demonstrate that? It's almost like as you start to really be yourself, like your wild, whole, complete self, whilst you are getting really real to the miracle of who you are and sharing yourself within your community, that is helping you create more security for yourself. So when you do come to find your next home, the people in your community say, oh my God, I know the perfect place for you. But of course, nobody's going to do that if they don't really know you. And so this is about you knowing yourself and the people around you really knowing you as best as they possibly can. So I hope that's helpful for you. But that's the energy that I see is really going to move you on to the next step and to the next step, because life is just a continual cycle. So if that's helpful, that's fantastic. I wish you a really good Cazimi moment over the next couple of weeks as all of this energy plays out. As ever, if I can be of any help and you want to book something private with me, then all my details are below. All you need to do is just literally book into my diary and invite me to work with you. So wishing you loads of love and luck and all that jazz, and hopefully catch up with you another time real soon. Bye for now. So there you go. They were my forecasts for the Uranus Cazimi, the Jupiter Cazimi, leading into the Venus Cazimi. As you can see, I've linked them along because I really do see that those energies flow. I'm very excited about these. Obviously, we are in the middle of the Uranus Cazimi right now, so I'm going to cut this short and get this video online. And yeah, I apologize once again that things have taken a little longer. I'm going to reveal my news right now. And I don't know how many people actually watch to the end. I don't suppose many people do, but just in case you do catch it, one of the reasons why things are late is because my husband and I have just signed contracts to do a daily 30-minute show on a new subscription TV channel. So we're going to be doing a well-being 30-minute show, and I'm really looking forward to it. My husband and I have so much fun when we do broadcasting together. It's really cool. We're going to be interviewing cool people and helping people get really real to themselves in the moment every day as a daily practice. So that's how my life has just expanded with this Jupiter and Uranus energy. So I wonder what is changing for you too. Anyway, lots and lots of love, and speak to you real soon. Bye for now.